Part 16. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 152. It was just a casual kick. Even if Zhang Wuji was seriously injured, because Zhang Wuji practiced the 9 Yang manual, he usually recovered his internal strength quickly. Since Zhang Wuji was born, he has never eaten such a big kick. Fortunately, Yang Xiao and others saw Beihe appear inexplicably at this moment. They had never heard of a number one person like her in the world before. Seeing her take action now forced Zhang Wuji to retreat, and everyone in the Ming cult couldn't help but smile. With a look of vigilance, everyone stared at Lily tensely. "Who are you?" Yang Xiao looked calm and couldn't help but ask again. Lily glanced at him. The Yang Xiao she killed during the extinction period was also about the same age at this time, but he had Ji Ziofu at that time. "With me by my side, my life was free and happy, and I didn't become depressed because of a love debt. I didn't seem to be as stable as now. It felt so weird to kill the same person twice." Lily glanced at him and turned her head away. "I'm just a passerby who can't stand what Ming Jiao does. Maybe there is some misunderstanding." Xiao Zhao didn't bother to look at Zhang Wuji's injuries at the moment, staring at Lily, with a moist color in her eyes. She felt very kind to Lily for some reason. At this moment, he wished he could get closer to her. Seeing Lily's conflict with people from the Ming cult, Xiao Zhao was both anxious and a little scared. "Just explain the misunderstanding clearly." "Xiao Zhao, don't worry about this. I want to save Uncle Shi and others. If this girl doesn't get out of the way, Zhang Wuji will only be offended." Zhang Wuji's heart and blood were surging at this moment, while he secretly adjusted his inner strength. While suppressing the severe pain in his chest, he shouted, "The Ming religion promotes good and eliminates evil. It has always been working to drive away the Mongolian Tatars. Even if there is any misunderstanding among friends in the world, it is just a misunderstanding." "What a misunderstanding?" "Xiesun, the golden-haired lion, killed many people. In order to force Chang Kun out, he committed murders everywhere. He killed the lay brother of Master Mija, killed the eminent monk Kong Jian, and even killed the disciples of various major sects while trying to seize the dragon-slaying knife. In order to seize the antidote for Shixiang Ruan Jinsen, Wei Yuxiao captured the concubine of the king of Ruyang and framed Lezang with such unscrupulous methods. If he really had the ability to deal with the two elders Xianming, it would be fine. If he didn't have the ability, he only knew how to use women as his chess pieces. Now I just want you to have a taste of what it's like to be slaughtered at the mercy of others. You heroes of the world are all shouting and killing, and you don't take the lives of ordinary people seriously. You can scheme whenever you want, but I don't know if chess pieces can resist sometimes." Lily spoke quickly. The heat has reached the 7th floor, as Zhao Min and others rushed to run downstairs. There were no guards on the tower. Although Zhao Min and others could not escape due to the intensity of the fire, they were all crowded together now that they might be burned alive. People from the 6 major sects rushed downstairs, but they were trapped on the 7th floor. Although the wind and fire were strong, Lily's voice was not quiet, and she spoke with inner strength. Many people nodded secretly when they heard this. Ming Jiao, his actions were too sinister. Although he stole the antidote in order to save the people of the 6 major sects, his methods were inevitably a little underhanded. Now he didn't expect that he suddenly stole a woman and thought he was going to die, but instead he got into trouble with so many people. Lawsuit. It was the first time for many of the lay brothers who heard that Master Mija was also killed by Xiesun. Even Zhang Wuji was shocked. He really felt an indescribable affection and respect for Zhou's hero in his heart, and he felt that he had no repayment. When he thought about getting along with her for 100 years, he now learned about the past grievances from Lily's mouth. One was his adoptive father, and the other was the master of the person he admired. He was instantly confused and spoke subconsciously. He shouted, "You're talking nonsense. She's right, When Joe's hero helped Master Jaja out from the high building, she happened to hear these words. She raised her head and laughed a few times. People in the Ming cult are guilty of death. Xie Sun forced Cheng Kun to leave. Kill my eldest brother, Yang Xiao, this thief, even slandered my disciples' innocence. Ming Jiao deserves to die. In the blazing fire, the face of Mimi was ferocious and terrifying, full of resentment and murderous intent, and he was staring down. Zhao Min and others were just a step too late when they ran downstairs. At this time, the fire was getting bigger and bigger. Everyone was trapped on the 7th floor, and their faces were filled with tears from the smoke. If the situation continued like this, the fire would probably be destroyed. It is not unusual to catch fire. Zhang Wuji's face turned red from being scolded. Even if he was not face to face with Zhou's hero, he seemed to be able to feel the panic in Zhou's hero's eyes. Girl, who are you? Zhang Wuji asked Lily again. Lily pointed at Fan Yao, who had his martial arts disabled, and said, I was captured by Wei Yuxiao, but was almost killed by Fan Yao. Poor people. What happened between you has nothing to do with me, but now that people from the Ming cult have almost killed me, it is only fair that I should kill you too. Leader Zhang, considering your father's reputation as a hero, as long as you stand aside, I won't pursue this matter with you. What do you think, Master Zhang? Humph, what a big breath. Wei Yuxiao's expression changed, and his figure flashed towards Lily like the wind, but his famous Jingong in the world was completely useless in front of Lily, and he was caught by Lily again. This time Lily didn't kick him out directly, but grabbed his clothes and smashed him to the ground. There was a loud bang, and a large amount of dust rose up on the ground. Wei Yuxiao's body was almost embedded in the ground. A large amount of blood kept spurting out from his mouth, and his eyes were a little blurry. Lily immediately then he broke his heart and saw that he could no longer live. Many people in the Ming cult had panic in their eyes, staring angrily at Lily. Although they were noisy on weekdays, they were extremely protective of each other. It was just that they had differences in the past, so they couldn't stand each other. In addition, seeing Wei Yuxiao's death under such circumstances, everyone couldn't help but feel a kind of jealousy. Feeling sad that the rabbit had died and the fox had died, they couldn't help but shout, King Wei bad. Personal grudge. It has nothing to do with other people. I only killed Fan Yao and Wei Yuxiao. The others can leave this place and return to Persia, and I will forget about it. Lily waved her hand, with a slight smile on her face. I just wanted to kill him. It's just a matter of revenge. If you are dissatisfied, it has nothing to do with me. If you want to die, the death of the original owner was initially suggested by Yang Xiaode, then Wei Yuxiao robbed the person and sent him to the Lezang guest bed, and finally was killed by Fan Yao, was beaten to death with his own hands until his orifices bled, and his body was finally hidden under Wan'an Temple. She will not let go of any relevant person, but although the lily of the Middle Earth Ming Jiao will be disintegrated, it does not necessarily have to rely on killing people. If Zhu Yuanzhang has the ability to start a new business in the future, Lily will naturally not meddle in others' affairs. But at this time, in order to fulfill the wish of the original owner, the Ming Jiao must be destroyed. If she could kill fewer people, she would naturally not have to kill people to destroy the Ming cult. As long as she dispersed the leading ones, the others below would be incompetent. Zhang Wuji's eyes showed sadness. He looked at Wei Yuxiao on the ground, suppressed the pain in his heart and said sternly, Girl, even if you want to take revenge, aren't your methods too cruel? He also knew that the Ming cult was at fault in this matter, but who would have expected that a concubine of King Ruyang would have such an ability? It's just a woman, she's dead when she dies. At least she died for the sake of her family and country, and she deserves to die. But now that she has the ability but is unwilling to die, Zhang Wuji is really confused. He has an indecisive personality. In fact, apart from his chivalrous heart, he is not suitable to be the leader of a religion. It is only because he turned the tide and saved the Ming cult that people are convinced that he is the leader of the Ming cult. In terms of quick wit, he is not as good as Yang Xiao, and in terms of patience, he is not as good as Yang Xiao. He was not as strong as Fan Yao, and he was not as ruthless as the rest of the Ming cult. When faced with such a situation, he wanted to reason but couldn't bear to see people from the Ming cult killed or injured, so he hesitated. It's just repaying injustice and taking revenge. When Leader Zhang comes forward, does he have to do the same as Wei Yuxiao? Lily glanced at Zhang Wuji and said with a smile, although I don't want to kill irrelevant people, I don't dare to kill. Lily, stop. Girl, please stop. When they heard the noise below on the high tower, Zhao Min and Zhou's Hiruo couldn't help shouting. Just because there were two people in front of them, Xiao Zhao became silent, which attracted more and more attention. Even Lily looked at Xiao Zhao. At a glance, Xiao Zhao's love for Zhang Wuji in the plot of Yi Tianli is as good as anyone's. Finally, on the way to find Xie Sun, he met people from the Persian Holy Fire cult and returned to Persia to become a saint. Thinking of this, Lily almost pulled her hair and screamed. She remembered that something was wrong. She remembered that something was weird. It was all because Xiao Zhao was a saint. There was also a damn person on her body. The blessing of the saint. Lily was about to cry at the moment. She remembered that Li Yangzi had told her that once she had the blessing of the saint, it would be easy to gain her love and favor. She couldn't help but feel numb. No wonder Xiao Zhao looked weird after seeing her, with a bit of a creepy feeling on her face. She didn't think of the damn collection of the saint's blessing before, but now she remembered it, and an ugly smile appeared on the corner of Lily's mouth. Suddenly, he no longer wanted to kill Zhang Wuji. Without Zhang Wuji, who would give her Xiao Zhao's admiration points? Forget about the experience of being loved by a woman once, she really didn't want to experience it a second time. Although her name is Lily, she is not Lily. The expression on Lily's face turned very ugly in an instant. Xiao Zhao's gaze kept falling on her, as if he didn't move his eyes. Lily felt even more tense all over. In order to avoid Xiao Zhao's gaze, Lily took a deep breath and deliberately glanced at the top of the tower. Master Zhang, if you want to compete with me, why don't you go aside and adjust your breath first? Let me move the tower first, the person above will talk next. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 153. Zhang Wuji's heart was filled with anger and blood. Hearing Lily's words, he nodded in a hurry. The people from the Ming cult hurriedly pulled Wei Yuxiao to stand up. Lily shouted in the air, if you are going to die, jump down one by one, let's talk about it later. Lily will never throw the opportunity to save the 6 major sects to the Ming Qiao, and since she still has the energy to spare, she is still willing to do things that are just casual, not to mention that she has done it for the extinction, having fulfilled her wish, and once again meeting the original owner of the mission to fulfill her wish. It was a very wonderful feeling. Even if Lily didn't save others, she still wanted to save the extinction and the Imei sect. The first ones to jump down were still the people from the Wudang section. They were worried about Zhang Wuji's safety, so they wanted to come down to save him, so Song Yuanqiao jumped out first. The luck in Lily's body caught Song Wuqiao and put him down on the ground. Song Yuanqiao thanked him, and one after another others jumped down. Wang Baobao and others who were surrounding did not say anything. There were not only people from the 6 major sects on the tall building, but also Princess Zhao Min. Naturally, no one from the Ruyang Palace dared to act rashly, so they could only watch helplessly. Everyone jumped down. Because this time it was not Zhang Wuji who came to save people, and Lily just spoke for Master Mija. Although Mija has a weird temper, she is not an ungrateful person, otherwise she would not be willing to die in the original plot. He also resolutely refused to accept Zhang Wuji's kindness. She also landed safely, with a gentle smile on her face, and thanked Lily. When Zhao Men followed, the 8 heroes of the Divine Arrow who were on top of the tall building also jumped respectively. He Baiwen jumped down first, and Lily reached out to catch it. Until the deer stick guest jumped down. Lily stood there without moving. There was a loud bang sound. Lizank, who thought he would be picked up when he jumped, fell so hard that blood spurted out from his mouth and nose, and his brain burst. He twitched twice and stopped moving. Looking at this scene, everyone couldn't help but fell silent. When He Baiwen saw that his senior brother was dead, he was so angry that he trembled all over. He jumped over and pointed at Lily's nose and scolded, "Why don't you pick up my senior brother? When did I say I would pick him up?" Lily glanced at He Baiwen innocently. She didn't expect Lizank to think that she would pick him up, so she jumped down. She didn't have time to tell him to figure it out on his own, who made him believe in herself so much. He Baiwen was so angry that he and Lizank came from the same school and had always had a deep relationship. Now when he saw his senior brother die in front of him, the veins on his forehead could not stop twitching. He also saw Lily pretending to be innocent. "I wish I could kill her with one palm." But he knew that he was no match for Lily, so he suppressed the murderous intention in his heart and said angrily, "You can obviously save him. Why don't you save him?" She just didn't want to save her. In the plot, Hanji and Lizank died together and she was already deeply ashamed. At this moment, she died before she took the initiative to deal with Lizank. It was exactly the same as in the original plot. Isn't this bad? Lily didn't say anything. Everyone looked at the furious He Baiwen and couldn't help but twitch their lips. Zhang Wuji couldn't hide a smile in his heart. When he was young, he was persecuted by the 2 elders Xianming and almost died. Now that he saw Lizank met such an end, he couldn't help but secretly curse that he deserved it, and saw He Baiwen angry. Abnormally, although Zhang Wuji was dissatisfied with Beihe for killing Wei Yuxiao, things were back to normal now. When he was about to speak to help, Xiao Zhao moved faster than him. He jumped down by himself. "Miss Lily can save her if she wants." "How can you say that you have to save him?" Xiao Zhao just heard what Zhao Men blurted out, so he naturally knew Lily's name. After speaking, he turned to Lily. He smiled sweetly, with a gentle look in his eyes. It was just her appearance that fascinated Zhang Wuji, but it made Lily shiver all over. He hurriedly shook his arms to get rid of the hairy feeling all over his body, and said to He Baiwen, "I just can't be saved, so what?" He Baiwen was not her opponent. Hearing this, he couldn't say anything anymore, so he bitterly picked up Lizank, who had stopped twitching, and glared at Lily. With one glance, he used Qinggong and flew out of the crowd. As soon as he left, the talents from the 6 major sects came over to say thank you. Lily shook her head, "It's just a small effort, just taking advantage of the situation because of the strong fire. Leader Zhang, if you insist on helping the Ming cult now." As soon as Lily asked this question, Zhang Wuji thought of what happened before. At this moment, he had already vaguely guessed that he might not be Lily's match in terms of internal strength. After seeing Zhao Min, he couldn't help but feel a little angry. The princess is so capable, hiding such a master in the palace, but she is just playing tricks on me. Zhang Wuji, is it interesting? He originally said this just because he saw that the Ming Jiao was in crisis and that he might not be able to save the life of a hero like Fan Yao. However, Zhao Min was very innocent. It was not she who asked Lily to kill, nor was she allowed to hide. In the Prince Ruyang's palace, there are so many people in the palace of Niudia. Is it any wonder that Fan Yao can sneak in and Lily can sneak in too? What's more, Zhao Men changed her mind several times because of Zhang Wuji and couldn't bear to attack him. Now hearing that he was blaming herself instead, she couldn't help feeling a little sad, and tears almost rolled out of her eyes. She thought that although she was good at scheming, she had never plotted against Zhang Wuji. She was really innocent about Lily, but Zhang Wuji came to plot against her and secretly came up with such a dirty trick to steal the antidote. In fact, if he told her directly, wouldn't I give him what he wants? But even if he beat around the bush, he would not speak directly to her. Zhao Min felt a bit desolate in his heart for a moment, and his eyes turned cold when he looked at Zhang Wuji. Master Zhang is just planning his own plans, but now he is framed by others. I just heard Lily say clearly that she is just dissatisfied with what Ming Jiao has done. From Master Zhang on down, Ming Jiao only knows how to scheme. What kind of hero and hero are women? In terms of eloquence, even Ten Zhangwuji would not necessarily be Zhao Min's opponent. At this moment, Zhao Min was speechless, his face turned red and he could no longer speak. Lily didn't want to argue with them. Fan Yao had been disabled by her in martial arts, and Wei Yuxiao was about to become a dead person. As for Yang Xiao, she saw that Mija was looking at Yang Xiao with resentment and venom in his eyes. If in terms of martial arts, even though Yang Xiao had a great reputation at the time, it was not necessarily much higher than that of Ming Dynasty. She herself had fulfilled her wish for Ming Dynasty. She was well aware of the hatred of the Ming cult in the head of the Imei section. She was not going to kill Yang Xiao with her own hands, but want to let extinction take revenge personally. Every dog thief in the Ming sect is punished. What nonsense did the girl say to them? Just kill them all. Juju was supported by several disciples at the moment, and his resentful eyes fell on Yang Xiao, not only because Yang Xiao had she killed her most beloved disciple Ji Ziofu with her own hands, and she was filled with hatred for her senior brother Gu Hongzi, who was angered to death by Yang Xiao. It was a pity that she did not get the 9 yin manual, and the Yishan sword in her hand was also Zhao Min snatched it away. This secret was hidden in her heart. She was originally going to tell Zhou Hiruo, but just now she saw that her most beloved disciple still cared about Zhangwuji, even though she knew that Zhangwuji had a grudge against her. She couldn't help but feel a little sad, his expression even colder. Master Tai is just dealing with Yang Xiao alone. If it is so natural and simple. When Lily said this, she glanced at Mija with a sigh, but she didn't want to shake her head. Money and debts are easy to repay, but favors are hard to repay. A poor nun, you have your own way to deal with Yang Xiao, so don't worry about it, girl. She has a tough temperament, and the favor she had to accept from Lily just now has already made Mija feel uncomfortable. She has been extremely stubborn in her life and has never wanted to owe anyone a favor. Now she only owes Lily a favor for saving her life, and she doesn't want to owe Lily anything more. Could it be that the method Shi Tai pointed out is to get the 9 yin manual and Wu Mu's suicide note in the dragon sword and Yishan sword? Lily directly brought this matter out, and her words made everyone present couldn't help but wonder. I was surprised. The 9 yin manual is such a rare martial arts secret book. People have been looking for its whereabouts, but no one can find it. Everyone says that as long as you have the Yishan sword and the dragon slaying sword, you can rule. In the martial arts world, no one has ever known what secrets there are in the sword. At this moment, Lily's words seemed to lift the fog that had been covering the dragon-slaying sword, and aroused many people's search for it. Come to Siesun's enthusiasm and greed. There was a hint of fear in Master Mija's eyes, and he subconsciously exclaimed, "How do you know?" The secret of Wu Mu's suicide note and the 9 yin scriptures hidden in the Yishan sword and the dragon-slaying sword was personally passed down by the female hero Guo Xiang, who founded the Imei section. It is a secret that the Imei sect will only pass on to the next generation before the head of the Imei sect dies. And now Lily, an outsider, would know about it, which made Mimi extremely surprised and at the same time a little wary. Lily's appearance was really weird. There had never been any rumors about such a person in the past, but he was so young. But she suddenly appeared, and she knew many secrets in the world, including that her eldest brother was killed by Siesun when she was a secular family. She also knew that depending on her age, Lily might not have been born when her eldest brother Fang, the old hero, was killed. But she knew these things and didn't tell them. Now she even knows the secret of Yishin's sword. You don't have to worry about how I know it. I just want to tell you, don't think about the secrets in the Yishin sword and the dragon-slaying sword. When Lily mentioned this topic, she couldn't help but want to curse. She was becoming. He had obtained these two weapons when he was extinct, and he had directly struck the swords with each other as mentioned in the plot, and finally took out what was inside. However, Guojing and Huangrong, who were wise at the time, were confused for a while, and they made two. When he took out the weapon, he threw the 9 yin manual and Wu Mu's suicide note inside. When Ho Bei struck the two weapons to take out the contents, most of the 9 yin manual had been destroyed, and only 9 of them could still be seen. Yin white bone claw, and a small amount of internal energy and mental techniques fragments. But most of the other internal skills and mental techniques and Wu Mu's suicide note were completely destroyed. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 154. After all, the heavenly sword and the dragon-slaying sword were said to be indestructible at that time. When the materials used to make these two weapons were melted, the two weapons had already reached extremely high temperatures in the furnace. Later, Lily could barely get another 9. The fragmentary scroll of the Yin manual is already a great blessing among misfortunes. Fortunately, in the original plot, she did not feel so disappointed about not getting the 9 yin manual because she had practiced the 9 yin manual. People, I'm afraid they have to vomit blood. It has been a secret passed down by the Imei sect for so long. The dragon-slaying knife that Siesun got after killing so many people was actually just sharper. It can only be said to be a rare magical weapon, but the 9 yin manual in it was destroyed. Siesun had killed countless people in his life, and he deserved such a result. After everyone heard the news, they couldn't help but want to vomit blood, and Mija's face turned blue and white. Is this girl serious? There is absolutely no lie. When Guo Daxia made the dragon-slaying sword, he originally added strange iron. It is very difficult for this iron to melt. The 9 yin manual is invulnerable to water and fire. But in terms of the quality of the material, Yishin sword and the dragon sword is not inferior to it, so it was destroyed when making two weapons. Lily also wanted to vomit blood after opening the sword, but she kept it secret and did not say it, so every time she practiced 9 she practiced Yang Shen Gong instead of practicing the 9 yin manual because the scriptures she obtained were incomplete. The reason why the 9 yin manual appeared in her skill bar should be because it is as powerful and lethal as the 9 yin white bone claw. Very relevant. Ju's face was blue and white. She was not a fool herself. Of course she could understand what Lily was saying. She knew the sharpness of Yishin's sword very well. If Guojing and his wife had really sealed the 9 yin manual into the knife when they were making the weapon, how to put it inside without damaging it is a problem. She used to only think about getting these two secret books, but she never thought about whether the book would be damaged if put into the Yishin sword. Now she didn't expect that. She had been pursuing it for half her life. The matter turned out to be nothing, and for a while I felt lost and depressed. Zhang Wuji was also depressed. He knew how much hope Siesun had on the dragon-slaying sword. At this moment, he first heard that the sword contained the 9 yin scripture, and then said that the 9 yin scripture was actually destroyed. Sure enough, he would feel happy and sad at the same time. If Siesun, who had killed so many people for this reason and had lived on a deserted island for half his life holding a knife, and was still trying to figure out the secret of the knife, would have wanted to die if he knew about it. Everyone's expressions were very ugly. Lily thought of her own expression when she got the martial arts secret book. Now she saw that everyone's expressions were similar to hers before, and she felt a little relieved. Fan Yao's martial arts skills are useless, Wei Yuxiao's life and death are unknown, and he knows that it is impossible to obtain the 9 yin manual. After Lily signaled Zhao Min to give her the antidote, she adjusted her breathing and went after Yang Xiao. Everyone in Wudan was extremely embarrassed. They didn't know whether to side with the savior or the Mingjiao side of Wuji's child. Miss Han has been kind to our Wudan. Logically speaking, we should stand on the girl's side, but Wuji is the only child left by my fifth brother. Song Yuanqiao hesitated for a moment, but still said bravely, we Wudan can't help each other. She had long known that things might end like this, so Lily didn't care anymore and nodded. She glanced at Zhang Wuji and suddenly said, Master Zhang, I know that the white-browed eagle king of the Ming cult is your grandfather, so you joined the Ming cult, right? Lily had just saved Zhou's Hiruo and everyone in Wudan. At this moment, Zhang Wuji felt a little nodded towards her, but he also felt a little grateful. He nodded when he heard her words, but before he spoke, Lily suddenly he said, have you forgotten why the poisonous palms of the Xianming elders in your body were able to resolve the cold pain, and why you practiced the 9 Yang manual? Zhang Wuji frowned and didn't understand what Lily meant by saying this. He was about to ask a question when he saw Lily smiling and said, I left the 9 Yang manual to you and a small part of the 9 Yin manual once stayed in the cave. Now that you have learned the martial arts I left for you, the first thing you want to do is come and fight with me. As soon as she said this, everyone was shocked. The Ming cult maintains that it is not a secret that Wuji possesses the 9 Yang divine art. Everyone in the world knows it, but everyone does not know that all this was left to Zhang Wuji by a mysterious Lily. Although Zhang Wuji was destined to encounter the 9 Sun magic skill, the people in the plot did not know this, so Lily bluntly described herself as Zhang Wuji's benefactor. When you met Zhu Zhuzhen, the Pearl of the Snow Ridge, and after discovering the conspiracy between her father and daughter, she descended down the mountain and got into the cave to obtain the 9 Suns scripture that I left for you on the wall of the cave. You must not forget that I also left it at the place where you obtained the scriptures. Lettering, right. When Behi slightly modified and combined the two martial arts, she wrote on the place where the sutras were buried that the place where the sutras were buried would be waiting for the destined person. Now that she said it, Zhang Wuji no longer had any doubts. Although Yin Tianzheng hoped that he would join the Ming cult, and he originally admired the loyalty of people in the Ming cult, but now that Lily has explained that her martial arts was taught by her, his life is equivalent to the life she saved, and he can have Lily is now a success. As long as he was not grateful to his benefactor, there would naturally be no reason to attack her. Zhang Wuji looked a little embarrassed, glanced at Yin Tianzheng guiltily, and fell to his knees silently. Everyone in the meeting looked at Lily and regarded her as an anonymous senior in the world. Seeing Zhang Wuji kneel down, everyone understood that Lily deserved the name of his mentor, so no one found it strange. Fan Yao, who had been deprived of martial arts, saw such a scene and naturally knew that Zhang Wuji would no longer dare to attack Lily anymore. He had personally tried Lily's martial arts, and there was no way he could be an enemy of her. With such a person appearing out of nowhere, Wuji suppressed Ming Jiao's ideas so that he did not dare to do anything again. Wei in Ming Jiao's smile is dead, the white-browed eagle king is old, Xiesun is blind and is still hiding on a deserted island holding a broken knife, the purple-robed dragon king that he admired at the beginning is now missing, the Ming sect is torn apart, and great things are about to happen. But there appeared such a Chen Yaojin who led to success and failure. Fan Yao almost spat out a mouthful of blood, and it all started because he came up with an idea to kill someone with a borrowed knife. But he never thought that the knife would bite him back. Now I can't cut anyone else. On the contrary, it harmed myself. He has lived for the Ming cult all his life. He has given up his glamorous appearance and pretended to be deaf and mute for many years. What do you want to do now? Now Lily has ruined the hope in his heart. Seeing that Ming Jiao had just returned to the world after Yang Dingtian passed away, but failed only because of an accident, Fan Yao thought of the sacrifices he had made over the years. So much. All I got in exchange was this result. How could I accept it? I just sighed. Gods will plays tricks on people. He took out a dagger from his waist and stabbed it into his heart without hesitation. Fan Yushi Zhangwuji and others exclaimed. Yang Xiao, who was gradually unable to fight back after being chased by Jia, couldn't help shouting at this moment. Mija has deep internal strength. Although he has been on hunger strike for many times in Wan'an Temple, on the same day, she was hit by Shixiang Ruanjin powder again. At this time, she only recovered 40 to 50% of her internal strength after taking the antidote. However, she and Yang Xiao were completely desperate at the moment. So Yang Xiao gradually felt a little depressed and saw Fan Yao commit suicide. With a huge shock in his heart, he made a movement, and Mija from behind rushed forward, and a palm touched Yang Xiao's back. Yang Xiao spurted out a mouthful of blood. When he was young and vigorous, he used the great shift of the universe to seize the Yishan sword from Gu Hongzi. Later, he only said that the Yishan sword was nothing more than scrap metal and he didn't care about it. In the end, he took Gu Hongzi alive. I'm so angry that this revenge has finally been avenged after so many years. With a slap, most of the hatred in Mimi's heart disappeared. This hatred had been stuck in her heart for many years. Later, because of Yang Xiao's seduction of Ji Xiaofu, she became even more resentful of people in the Ming cult. Now Yang Xiao was slapped by her. Most of the past love and grudges have been eliminated. She has just recovered her internal strength, but now her body has been unable to bear it after being on hunger strike for many days. After taking a slap, Yang Xiao staggered forward, and Mija also sat down on the ground. Imei sent a group of female disciples to surround him. It's hard to distinguish between good and evil in the Ming cult. Now that Fan Yao and Wei Yuxiao are dead, the rest of them will not be lenient if they come to seek revenge from me. As long as the leader is eliminated, naturally it is difficult for the rest of the people to be great. Lily was about to run away after saying this, but Xiao Zhao had already reached out to catch her. Is Miss Lily also surnamed Han? My father happens to be surnamed Han. I wonder if there is any connection. Xiao Zhao inexplicably felt that Lily was very kind. Now he saw that Lily was trying to run away. He wanted to talk to her but was afraid that she would slip away. He quickly stopped her and asked her a few words, but saw that Lily she couldn't help shaking her head, and just when she was about to say something else, she saw Lily, who had been very calm just now, pulled up her sleeves and ran away. She stamped her feet, glanced at Zhang Wuji who was kneeling on the ground, and then looked at Ming Xiao. The man in the middle said without thinking. Perhaps Miss Lily has a close relationship with my father. Please take care of yourself in the future. Xiao Zhao can no longer serve you. Xiao Zhao just wanted to chase her now, and she didn't care that her identity might be exposed if she said these words. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhang Wuji was full of questions and wanted to hold her back and ask her again. Xiao Zhao was already impatient to see Lily's figure running further and further away. He gritted his teeth and said, "There is Miss Zhou beside the leader, and there is the princess. Everyone is as beautiful as a flower. Xiao Zhao is just a girl. I wish the leader and his future wife a happy marriage for 100 years. I am no longer the leader." Zhang Wuji said this with a sad look on his face. He was about to say something more, but he saw that Xiao Zhao had already pulled her sleeves back and quickly disappeared after chasing Lily's back. He was originally full of sadness, but because Xiao Zhao left without mercy, Zhang Wuji felt as if a piece of his heart was missing. He used to love the girl who stayed by his side, and it seemed that he had become accustomed to her. Now that Xiao Zhao ran away, he felt a little uncomfortable, but Xiao Zhao ran away without even finishing his words to him, which really made Zhang Wuji unable to hold his head up in front of everyone. In the end, Yang Xiao was seriously injured, and the plan of the Ming Jiao was naturally in vain. It was not Zhang Wuji who saved the person. Naturally, the 6 major sects could not be as grateful to the Ming Jiao as in the original plot. Instead, because of the dragon-slaying knife that Lily accidentally revealed, The secret is that now the dragon slaying knife is just a slightly sharper and rare knife, but it is no longer worthy of everyone's pursuit. However, thinking of the people Siesun killed when he snatched the knife in the end, everyone's hearts were filled with overwhelming anger. On the contrary, the Ming cult was changed. I hate it more. Lily heard that the enmity between the 6 major sects and the Ming Jiao became deeper and deeper, and Zhang Wuji lost his soul figure. In the end, the Ming Jiao retreated to Persia, but the Yuan dynasty was still exhausted. Without a single Ming Jiao, there were still thousands of the Han people revolted and soon changed dynasties. I heard that Zhao Min went into seclusion with Zhang Wuji in the Jianghu, and Zhou's Hiruo took over the position of head of the Imei section. I don't know how he persuaded her in the end, but all this has nothing to do with Lily. She was chased by Xiao Zhao so much that she couldn't rest. Although Xiao Zhao's martial arts skills were not as good as Lily's, he was proficient in all aspects of Kimen Dunjia, and he was even more proficient in the 5 elements and Bagua. Such skills were more than enough to chase people, and Lily was very convenient every time he went to a place. She will be caught by her. She is naive and simple. She may not know what her feeling of wanting to get along with Lily is, so she only treats her as a sister when she catches up with Lily. Lily herself has a ghost in her heart and is a little scared at first. See you later. She really couldn't hide, so she accepted her fate and stopped running away. Xiao Zhao let her follow her if she wanted to. Fortunately, Xiao Zhao had a docile temperament and always took good care of her. Although in one aspect she looked like Lan Lan. Yu is somewhat similar, but she is not as determined as Lan Yu. She is satisfied as long as she stays with Lily. Lily finally gave up. When the two were together, she occasionally asked Xiao Zhao for advice on the 5 elements and Bagua technique, and then she was abducted. The saint who will unify the Persian Ming dynasty in the future. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 155. When she returned to the starry sky, Lily felt a little sad about the saint's blessing, which was so deceptive that it didn't pay for anyone's life. She saw Li Yangzi, who had been waiting in the space for a long time, and the first thing she said was to ask, "Can I send the saint to the starry sky, will the blessing be cancelled?" This time it was Xiao Zhao who was gentle and docile. If she met a strong saint next time, she would start to worry about her chastity. A smile appeared in Li Yangzi's originally calm eyes, and he shook his head. "No, this will help you. Haven't you already learned the 5 elements and Bagua this time?" After saying this, Li Yangzi said again, "You have already repaired the 9 Yang manual in this line. Do you want to give me the Bagua, where to add a little bit? I still have to add it to the force unless there are special circumstances." Lily likes to insist on adding the attribute values that she thinks she wants to learn until she thinks she can pause. This was the case when she added points to intelligence, and Li Yangzi was not surprised. Nodded. Gender, female, variable. Name, Lily. Age, 21. Intelligence, 62, out of 100. Appearance, 61, out of 100 points. Physical strength, 59, out of 100. Force, 29, out of 100 points. Spirit, 15, out of 100 points. Reputation, 21, out of 100 points. Skills, 9 Yang Manual, 9 Yin Manual, Heaven and Earth Gate Tao Te Ching, Southern Gu Technique. Specialties, Intermediate Cooking Skills, Advanced Acting Skills, 5 Elements and Bagua Skills. Charisma, 32, out of 100. Collection, Corpse King's Love, Saint's Blessing, Angel's Heart. This time Lily saw that in addition to the point Li Yangzi gave her, the force value also increased by 1 point, and that was not all. Even there is a little more charm. This time the harvest seemed to be better than she expected. She raised her head with some doubts, and Li Yangzi said to her expressionlessly, "You have repaired the 9 Yang manual, so I will give you a little extra. As for the charm, it is because the Persian saint fell in love with you. This added charm is really a pain in the ass." Although Lily was a little happy to have her attribute values increased, she still couldn't help but feel numbness in her back when she thought about the method of increase. For a while, she struggled a little, not knowing whether to meet the saint again. After all, the charm value is too good to increase. "You mean that the 9 Yang scripture can be repaired, and the 9 Yin scripture can also be repaired?" Lily suddenly thought of the other meaning of Li Yangzi's words, and couldn't help but feel excited. The fragments of the 9 Yin scripture are inherently incomplete. If she can find a complete one, once it is repaired, doesn't it mean that she can get some force points again? Li Yangzi didn't expect her to react so quickly. She frowned and nodded, "That's true." A smile appeared on Lily's face involuntarily. While nodding to Li Yangzi, he said excitedly, "Then I want to join the mission again." This time Li Yangzi said nothing. Just nodded, and when the familiar feeling of dizziness entered her mind, once Lily received the plot, she couldn't help but have the urge to scratch the wall. "I'm afraid everyone in China knows about the world she entered this time, that is, Tang Bo who lights Xiang. It's okay if she can't become a heroine. Lily has self-awareness, but if she can't become Xiang, it's okay to become Mrs. Hua or Tang Bohu's mother. Apart from these, any of Tang Bohu's wives and concubines will do, even in spring, summer, and winter. Sangxiang is not bad, but she has become the popular pomegranate sister. Li Yangzi must be pranking her." Lily was very sure of this. After receiving the plot, Lily leaned against the wall and cried without tears. She had done so many missions, and she never felt so depressed. But this time she couldn't help it, because Pomegranate's wish was to become unparalleled in the world. The great beauty wants everyone to fall under her pomegranate skirt, wants Tang Bohu to marry her instead of Xiang, and wants to be famous in the Taishi mansion. Thinking of the scene in her memory when the original owner looked in the mirror, Lily couldn't help but want to cry again. This was simply an impossible task. If Xiang's skin was whiter than Shue's, her appearance was as beautiful as a flower, her appearance could be rated 80, and Lily's own if her appearance has reached the borderline of 62 points, then Pomegranate's figure and appearance may be around 30 or 40 points. If she still wants to become a charming beauty, and there is no Korea at this time, Lily really can't know how to give a pomegranate a wish. Ever since Tang Bohu chased Chiu Xiang and came to Washington, he was very impressed with this suave man, his elegant demeanor and his superb martial arts skills. Not only Chiu Xiang gradually fell in love with him, but even Pomegranate also fell in love with him, especially in after Tang Bohu defeated the deadly scholar, Shiliu fell in love with him even more. Unfortunately, he ended up marrying Xiang. He would definitely not like a maid like Shiliu who was ordinary and even ugly. The original owner was also named Lily before entering Washington. After entering Washington, Mrs. Hua gave her the name Pomegranate. Thinking of this impossible task of making Tang Bohu fall in love with her, Lily would rather face the saints now. "Sister Pomegranate, have you finished your work? She has a stomachache and is waiting to go to the toilet." A brittle little girl outside couldn't help complaining, and stamped her feet. "You have been in there for an hour and a half, and we have to endure it. I can't stand it any longer, can you hurry up?" No wonder Lily felt a strange odor coming from her surroundings. She thought it was because there was a urine bucket in the room. Now she stiffened and turned around to see that there was only one in the room. "Gong Tong, there is a pit next to it. The wall her face was pressed against just now is the toilet wall, and her whole body is already frozen." She took in the plot in the toilet and rubbed it against the wall of the toilet for a long time. She had not noticed it before. Now she saw something colorful on the wall. A feeling of nausea came to her heart and she almost vomited out. She thought this was the worst thing that could happen, But Lily found that it was even worse than this. There were 2 pieces of bamboo placed in the toilet. The original owner didn't clean them up after going to the toilet. At this time, people outside urged him to. Amazing, she took out the handkerchief and saw the exquisite mandarin ducks embroidered on it. Lily hesitated for a while, cursed in her heart, and took a piece of bamboo to clean herself up with tears in her eyes. There was a girl with a round face standing outside. When she saw Lily coming out, her face looked a little unattractive, so she couldn't help it anymore. She clasped her legs and walked 2 steps on the spot, and said, "Sister Pomegranate, come on." Sister Hui Xiaxiang gave me a prescription for treating lower abdominal distension. I'll copy it to you later. She thought that Lily squatted in the toilet for more than an hour because she was constipated because she couldn't relieve herself. She thought that she had just urged her a few times. I noticed that Lily's face looked a little unattractive at this moment, so I cautiously made amends to Lily and apologized. "Then you bring it. The blow just now was too great." Lily nodded expressionlessly at this moment. She was about to go back to the room to find someone to get some water to freshen up. Unexpectedly, just as she was about to leave, the girl suddenly he stopped her and asked, "Where are you going, Sister Pomegranate?" "I'll get an extra room and freshen up." She didn't know if it was for psychological reasons, but she always felt that her face was itchy and uncomfortable, and the smell of clean rooms on her body was overwhelming. It wasn't the cold weather right now, it was spring when the flowers were blooming, and she had been in the clean room for a long time. She had a headache so much that she was sweating when she received the plot again. Now her hair was as messy as a crazy woman's, and the smell of her body made her feel uncomfortable. The round-faced girl couldn't help but squeeze her legs tighter, and couldn't help but said, "What are you still doing to freshen up?" "Madam asked you to go quickly." "Madam is about to go out to burn incense, why are you still dawdling?" "It was raining all night." Lily raised her head and took a deep breath. She usually looked crazy in front of Mrs. Hua. If she became Mrs. Hua, she would definitely not do this to Pomegranate. There was a girl waiting by her side, but Mrs. Hua tolerated her, and always took her with her when she went out. She was not even a green leaf when she was with Sixiang in spring, summer, autumn, and winter. She could only be used as a pile of fertilizer. That's all. The original owner was very happy before, but now Lily has gone out. Thinking of the honor of the original owner, a sense of shame wells up in his heart. In the plot, she originally did not go with Mrs. Hua to offer incense, but now Lily thought of the scene in the original drama when Kai Xiang and Tang Bohu first met, and she no longer cared about her own dignity, fearing that Mrs. Hua would leave. He turned around and started running. Because she had just been delayed for a while in the clean room to receive the plot, Lily didn't dare to stay any longer. She rushed over all the way, causing everyone in the house to look at her. I wonder if Pomegranate is usually like this. So no one was surprised. When they finally arrived at the gate of the house, they finally caught up with the large army. Mrs. Hua waved to Lily, motioning for her to come and follow the sedan. Smelling Lily's scent, Chen Xiaodongxiang and the others all moved away from her. Lily thought of this battle and the memory of the original owner. It was this time that Zhong met Tang Bohu, because Kai Xiang's closeness and love for the beggars finally moved him, and he began to make up his mind to pursue Kai Xiang. Although Kai Xiang is beautiful, to Tang Bohu, who is used to seeing beauties, she is not a top beauty. What attracts him most is Kai Xiang's kindness. In order to fulfill the original owner's wish and take down Tang Bohu, Lily is also ready to show her kind side, just in time to seduce Tang Bohu, so that she can quickly complete the task. She was making up her mind, but Mrs. Hua waved to her, "Pomegranate, follow me into the temple." "Chunxiang Kai Xiang, you guys go and give alms and give some food to the poor." Lily looked at Mrs. Hua who had finished her instructions. After saying this, she sat back in the sedan. She had no intention of letting her plead for mercy. Lily hesitated for a moment, thinking that Kaiuxiang and others had always been favored in the past. When he wanted to plead with Kaiuxiang to let her take him to donate alms, Kaiuxiang said, "Pomegranate, why do you smell so bad?" To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 156. If Kaiuxiang didn't say this, Lily still decided to be friends with her. When she heard this, she wanted to scratch Kaiuxiang to death. She saw the disgust on the faces of Chunxiang and others. She silently and deliberately leaned closer to her, causing a group of girls who were named maids, but were actually well-bred and delicate, to gasp, and Lily felt at ease. I don't know if it was due to the influence of the pomegranate deity, but now Lily felt that she was acting a little childishly. When she came to the temple, she watched the four fragrances of spring, summer, autumn, and winter being surrounded by beggars. She followed Mrs. Hua into the temple, so she could give alms. The finished Kaiuxiang quickly squeezed into the temple. The black handprints on her originally beautiful clothes were very conspicuous. Mrs. Hua always doted on her. After thinking about it, she said to Kaiuxiang, "Kaiuxiang, go and put the incense sticks for me. By the way, ask for a signature for me." Kaiuxiang responded, turned around and went out. Lily thought that Tang Bohu had also been here when Kaiuxiang was offered this time, so she also hurriedly said to Mrs. Hua, "Madam, I will also go and ask for a fortune stick for Mrs. Hua." "You want to ask for a marriage sign for yourself, right?" Mrs. Hua joked, but then waved her hand, "You can go ahead. I want to stay in this wing for a while. I just need to come back quickly." Lily didn't expect that her wish would be fulfilled so quickly, so she hurriedly responded. Just when she was thinking about how to leave a deep impression on Tang Bohu when she met Tang Bohu for the first time, she saw Kaiuxiang kneeling as soon as she walked to the door. In the scene of asking for autographs on the ground, Tang Bohu was now dressed like a human and standing in front of her. He was saying something with a smile on his face. Lily hurriedly hid behind the door, and it didn't take much time. Then I heard Tang Bohu's voice coming from inside. "Miss, do you want to worship God? It's good to worship God. If you worship more, God will naturally bless you." Just as he finished his words, a man's shout suddenly came, and the sound was like a kick on human flesh. The sound rang out, and Lily looked over, just in time to see a figure being kicked out and collapsed on the ground, unable to get up for a long time. The corner of Lily's mouth couldn't help but twitch. Tang Bohu himself was very strong, so he just wanted to get kicked for talking to Kaiuxiang. But in fact, his muscles and bones were not injured at all. He quickly turned over and climbed up. Two monks stood up, pointed at Tang Bohu and said, "Disciples are not welcome in the temple." After saying this, the two monks stood up and pointed at Tang Bohu. The monks snorted coldly and went in again. Tang Bohu got up and patted the dust on his body, and ran towards the temple again. Lily looked over and saw that Kaiuxiang had left, and couldn't help but feel happy. She was worried about how to use the private meeting between herself and Tang Bohu to talk to him. "Let's talk." At this moment, the opportunity came to her door. After she entered the temple, she saw Tang Bohu also coming in. He glanced at her, then quickly looked away, as if looking for Kaiuxiang, and hurriedly stepped forward and said, "Young master is looking for." As soon as she finished speaking, a man's shout came out again, and a bad premonition came to Lily's heart. She quickly turned her head to look, and saw that one of her legs was about to stretching it to her face. A smell of sweat mixed with foot odor hit her. Lily instinctively bent down to hide, but her consciousness was quick enough, but her body reacted very slowly. She felt a sharp pain in her waist. Attacked, he was lightly kicked away by a powerful force. This was the first time she had been kicked away during many missions. Thinking of the scene where Tang Bohu was kicked away just now, Lily's face turned dark. It wasn't until she fell to the ground with a bang sound that all the bones in her body fell apart. Generally, I can't get up for a long time. Female disciples are not welcome in the temple. After the monk said this very coldly and arrogantly, he put his hands on his waist, turned around and entered the temple again. When she heard the monk's words, Lily was already petrified. She was a female slut and a pervert. She had done so many tasks and lived for several lives. She had never been perverted to anyone else. How could she have such a face? The face of a pervert? She was ashamed and angry, and her whole body was still very sore. While she was trembling, Tang Bohu held his belly and pointed at her and laughed, ah ha 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 ha. Just now he was kicked out by the monk in the temple while talking to Kai Xiang. Now he was kicked out by the monk just after chatting with Tang Bohu. The distance between Pomegranate and Kai Xiang has been widened. Lily wanted to cry but had no tears. Seeing Tang Bohu squatting on the ground with laughter and unable to stand up, unknown fire ran through her heart. These blind monks in the temple dared to call her a pervert. Tang Bohu didn't know how to kick but kicked her instead. When Tang Bohu was talking to Kai Xiang, he kicked Tang Bohu out. Doesn't doing this now show that he looks even more vulgar than Tang Bohu? Lily's face was burning with pain, and she decided that after she finished practicing her martial arts, the first thing she would do when she came back was to kick the monk who had just kicked her out into a pig's head in retaliation for today's humiliation. However, she clearly remembered that when she was watching the plot, the monk in the temple said that no noise was allowed in the temple, so why did it become to her that perverts were not allowed in the temple? Hey, what's your name? Tang Bohu squatted in front of Lily, laughing so hard that he couldn't even see his eyes. He felt very embarrassed when he was kicked out when he was teasing Kai Xiang. Although the monk in the temple might not have recognized him. Xiaoyuan Tang Bohu, but his reputation is so outstanding in the Jiangnan area, if he is seen by others, he will be really embarrassed to death. But when he saw Lily lying on the ground unable to get up, with her legs twisted into a weird big character shape, Tang Bohu couldn't help but laugh out loud again. What did you want to say to me just now? At that moment, Lily really wanted to give up. Why was Kai Xiang so kind and gentle when she appeared? Why was she kicked away by the monk when she appeared? These damn monks, one day she would beat them all over the place. Run. When she heard Tang Bohu's question, Lily was confused for a moment whether she should cover his eyes or conceal her face in order to leave a good impression. After thinking for a long time, she endured the pain all over her body and said, he covered half of his face with his sleeves and raised his head carefully. Master, are you looking for Kai Xiang? At this moment, compared to Kai Xiang, his image has fallen into the dust. If he still wants to attract Tang Bohu's attention, he can no longer continue to be with Tang Bohu when his appearance is not comparable to others. Pretend to be gentle and kind in front of me, so as not to encounter the blind monk like before and suffer further hardships. Seeing her unkempt appearance, Tang Bohu couldn't help but smile again on his face. He held a folding fan in his hand and poked Lily's head. No need to cover it up, I just saw it all. I really want to find it. Kai Xiang, do you have any good ideas? There are many wives and concubines in his house, but there is no one who knows him well. They are either playing around or drinking and playing cards. What he needs is a confidant who can understand him, love him, and connect with his heart, not a stunning beauty, but just now Kai Xiang's gentle expression when playing with the beggars made him, who was used to seeing beauties, suddenly feel his heart flutter. Hey, don't cover it up anymore. Although my sister has amazing looks, I am a talented person from the south of the Yangtze River. Before he could finish his words, when Lily heard the words amazing looks, she couldn't help but her face turned red. Thinking without thinking, she stretched out her hand and slapped him. Go to hell, you have amazing looks. After the slap, she realized what she had done, and quickly twisted her skirt, not even caring about the shoes that had just fallen to the ground. Pick it up and run away. Lily ran for a long time before looking back. Cinderella's glass slippers fell to the ground. The prince picked them up carefully and went from house to house to find someone to try them on. Her embroidered shoes fell to the ground, and even the beggar didn't pick them up. It means that after someone kicked him, he disappeared without a trace. Thinking of the inhuman treatment she had just received, Lily couldn't help but feel depressed and took out the handkerchief and bit it tightly. But when she came back to her senses and saw the inexplicable marks on the handkerchief, her stomach turned upside down again. The sea started to stir. If she had known that she would encounter something like this when she went out today, she might as well have just stayed in the house, but she had known it was hard to buy. But then again, she already knew that 1,000 pieces of gold could buy it, but she couldn't even find 10 pieces of gold, let alone 1,000 pieces of gold. When she returned to Mrs. Hua saw that she was missing one shoe and limping. Her eyelids jumped up. "Pomegranate, where have you been? How did you end up like this?" Lily didn't have the nerve to say that she was kicked out as a female hooligan. When she heard Mrs. Hua's dissatisfied questions, she knew that Mrs. Hua had always been protective of her shortcomings. Although Lily wanted to beat up the blind monk Qian Lily, but this time now she had no shame to tell the truth. After so many missions, she had never been so embarrassed. She had to suppress her shyness and only said that she had fallen and saw Mrs. Hua's meaningful smile. At this moment, a bad feeling came to Lily's heart, but Mrs. Hua said, "Have you taken a fancy to some youngster and are you chasing after him in a hurry?" It turns out that she is such an anxious image not only in the mind of the monk, but also in the mind of Mrs. Hua. Lily raised her head and was speechless. The original owner gave people such a vulgar impression. Can she really become a beauty? She already had a premonition that she might not be able to complete her mission this time, but Lily was really unwilling to do it until the end. She followed Mrs. Hua back to her house listlessly, missing a shoe along the way, and many people were worried. Staring at her, Chen Xiaodong Sangxiang seemed to be deeply afraid that she would be laughed at if he got close to her. When she stayed far away, Kai Xiang gently comforted Lily several times, which made Lily feel a little ashamed. A little embarrassed again. She came here purely to poach her, but Kai Xiang was still so gentle at the moment, which made her feel a little guilty for her wretched task this time. To be continued. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 157. When she returned to the mansion, Mrs. Hua saw how she was swaying as she walked, and specifically allowed her not to wait on her at night, but just stayed in her room to rest. Lily returned to the house and asked the third-class maid to carry the food for her. After getting some hot water and taking a nice bath, I breathed a sigh of relief. In this plot, the original owner and Kai Xiang are about the same age, but in terms of status, Xiang is the first-class maidservant who was favored by Mrs. Hua. Her status is not ordinary, and the original owner is not bad at it. Although she is not as good as the one above, she is better than the one below. She is more than enough. She is a first-class girl, she lives in her own room, and her life is pretty good. The original owner likes bright colors. She likes pomegranate red the most, which is also the origin of her name. There are also green and blue. Regardless of the exaggerated and bright colors, her wardrobe is almost full of such clothes. The original owner doesn't look like that. Kai Xiang is so bright and beautiful, and her figure and skin are not like Kai Xiang's, but her makeup is usually very strong, which makes people dislike her at first sight. Lily soaked the body in hot water and squeezed it. It was very thin and green. Although women in the previous dynasty were not as beautiful as fat, but it was really not good for someone who was too thin like her, and her chest was not that good either. Plump, Perhaps because of her age, it has not yet fully developed. After thinking about it, Lily didn't know that this body had no room for development. When she touched her waist, she couldn't help shuddering and gasping. Cool air. A purple footprint on her waist was now prominently displayed there. Not to mention touching it, even twisting her waist was painful. Today, the monk kicked her very hard, and kicked her away. There were also many scratches. Lily tried to exercise her skills. He scolded the damn monk again in his heart. Then I felt a lot more comfortable. I rubbed my waist with tears in my eyes, wiped my hair dry, and then lay on the bed. A few days later, the bruises on her waist dissipated a lot, and she no longer limped when she walked. Then she started to go out to run errands. According to the plot, Tang Bohu should not come to the door after 7 or 8 days. This is a good time to prepare for her. In the evening, he politely asked a group of girls to help him pick up the liquor and some useful fruits that Mrs. Hua and other masters drank during the day, and then they were sent to his room. At this time, everyone it seems that eating the leftovers of the master is not shameful, but it is a special honor. Of course, Sixiang will not eat these things. As favored girls, they have their own specific proportion of these things. In fact, in addition to being a girl, Sixiang has a very high status in Washington. She is almost the same as the eldest lady. All she needs to do is stay by Mrs. Hua's side to entertain her every day. The rest of the time, she plays with kites and guesses. The days passed very leisurely. However, Lily is not successful. She cannot be good at writing or martial arts in the mansion. Mrs. Hua usually saw her making fools of herself and would sometimes be amused and reward her with something. But most of the time she still had to do things. When she returned to her room after a busy day, she saw half-gnawed food on the table. There were some apples, a small half-bowl of honey, etc. Lily sighed, and she had to accept her fate and crush the fruit into a pulp. At the same time, she poured the honey and other things in and mixed them thoroughly. After taking a bath, she applied them on the face, head, and body. Sometimes she would take more of these things, and she would even mess with her hands and feet. If sometimes she would take less, she would only do the face and neck and other places that need to be exposed to others. I don't know if the previous owner always did it. Because she likes to put lead powder on her face was white enough in the past, but her skin was deeply damaged. Once the thick layer of powder was removed, her face looked pale and lifeless, her lips turning blue. He looked like an innocent ghost who was still waiting to die. The last time Lily went out without makeup, even Wu Zhuangyuan, who admired pomegranates, was shocked. She has also recently begun to try to make rice noodles from rice. Although it is not as good as the powder made in the palace given by Mrs. Hua that Kai Xiang and others used, and the color is not as white as the pomegranate powder before, it is better than this. It's cheap, almost completely homemade and free of charge, and the color looks much more natural when applied to the face, and it's less harmful than lead powder. Plus, Lily always makes a homemade facial mask and puts it on her face every night, 4 or 5 times. Every night after finishing her makeup, she returned to her room and found that her face looked much better. Counting the days, tomorrow is the day when Tang Bohu enters Washington. In the original plot, Shiliu sympathized with this poor man who sold his body to bury his father, and insisted on begging Kai Xiang to buy him. At that time, she had never thought that Tang Bohu was pretend, the people who entered Washington were just here to chase Kai Xiang. The original owner just sympathized with him because his father was dead and he was pitiful. Although in the eyes of people in Washington, Pomegranate acted out of tune and was like a clown. Generally speaking, she is actually very kind-hearted, but because of her exaggerated dress and behavior, what others notice when they first see her is not the kindness deep in her heart, but her actions that make people laugh. Since Tang Bohu loves Kai Xiang's kind side, Lily naturally wants to reveal the true nature of the original owner. After all, if he really loves kindness, the original owner also has a side that suits his preferences. Therefore, I prepared to rest early in the evening and behave well when I went to pick up Tang Bohu into the mansion the next day. Before dawn the next day, Lily had already been guarding the door. Everyone knew that Wu Zhuangyuan admired her very much. People in the outer courtyard also knew that she was Wu Zhuangyuan's sweetheart, so no one dared to stop her when she wanted to go out. Who would have thought that Kai Xiang, who usually only activities in the inner courtyard, would also come out now? In the plot, Lily remembers that Kai Xiang was passing by the outer courtyard to pick up something for Mrs. Hua. She happened to hear the news that Tang Bohu was going to sell his body to bury his father. However, it was obviously not her responsibility to do this, but she still met Tang Bohu in the end. After all, it can only be said that it is destined. At first, Kai Xiang didn't like Tang Bohu coming to pester her. Lily was ready to work hard. If Tang Bohu couldn't like her in the end, she would forget it. Although this mission was not dangerous, it was too difficult. "Pomegranate, what are you doing here?" When Qiu Xiang passed by the outer courtyard, she glanced curiously at Lily, who was standing still inside the door, and couldn't help but ask. "It's early in the morning, I'm afraid Chen Xia and Dong Xiang haven't gotten up yet," but she got up so early without saying anything, and she has already run to the outer courtyard. Lily couldn't help but want to scratch the wall again, but after hearing Qiu Xiang's words, turned around stiffly. "Sister Kai Xiang, Wu Zhuangyuan invited me here, and he seems to have something to tell me." As soon as she finished speaking, she saw Wu Zhuangyuan's figure in the distance. A meaningful smile appeared on Kai Xiang's face. Lily glanced into the distance expressionlessly. Perhaps seeing the movement here, Wu Zhuangyuan turned around and started walking in the direction he came from. Lily. What does this mean now? After everyone looks down on her, will her only loyal fan, Wu Zhuangyuan, start hiding when he sees her? Lily was still wondering if Wu Zhuangyuan was looking for something to please her. After all, Wu Zhuangyuan liked pomegranates in the plot. Unexpectedly, after a while, no one came back. Kai Xiang glanced at Lily silently. She wanted to say something at this moment, but she couldn't. She could only smile awkwardly at Lily twice, as if she was afraid that she would feel uncomfortable. "Pomegranate, actually. It's nothing, Sister Kai Xiang, don't worry about me now, just leave me alone for a while." Lily clenched her fists loudly, but managed to squeeze out a hurt look on her face. I know it in my heart she felt sorry for Pomegranate. Originally, Pomegranate's dignity was still loved by people, but since she came here to do the task for the original owner, even the only idiot fan has stayed away from her now. Wu Zhuangyuan, a thing with no vision, now she has become much more normal, but he doesn't like her, preferring the abnormal ones. But it doesn't matter, she still has a task to complete. As long as she takes down Tang Bohu, she doesn't care at all about the blow of a martial arts champion. Thinking that Kai Xiang's 3 smiles and mercy on Tang Bohu this time made his love for Kai Xiang stronger, Lily became more determined to coax Kai Xiang away. Of course, if she couldn't coax them away and these two were really an official match, then she would just give up. At worst, she would go back and do a few more tasks. It was impossible for Li Yangzi not to give her a chance. When Lily thought of this, she couldn't help but feel a little anxious. She wished she could call Li Yangzi out immediately and ask him clearly, so that he could have some confidence in his mind. Perhaps because she was afraid that Lily would be embarrassed, Kai Xiang nodded considerately, glanced at Lily several times, and was about to leave when a shout suddenly came from outside. "Hey, neighbors, come and see, the newly released Filial Sun auction." Lily couldn't help but put her nails on the door. With just a little effort and a few minutes, she was able to coax Kai Xiang away, but it was no use. Tang Bohu followed the meeting between Kai Xiang and Kai Xiang seemed to be destined, and she couldn't break it up. When she went back to the task this time, she told Li Yangzi that she couldn't do it, and she would make up for it next time. Pomegranate, let's go take a look. Kai Xiang was originally about to leave, but now she turned around and came back. Lily didn't like Tang Bohu at first, but she just thought of it because she had to complete the task for the original owner. Now that she saw that her task might fail, she had already made full preparations in her heart, so she was not as nervous as before and was afraid that Kai Xiang would follow her. Tang Bohu and Tang Bohu met. After making the decision, her attitude was different from before. When Kai Xiang said this, she nodded feebly. In Kai Xiang's eyes, it looked like Pomegranate had just been abandoned by Wu Zhuangyuan, so she was unbearably sad. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 158. Hey little brother, isn't it too unlucky for you to sell yourself here to bury your father so early in the morning? Kai Xiang couldn't help but scolded her with a frown. Lily looked at her in shock. This was her own line. The first time the original owner spoke to Tang Bohu, it was because she spoke first, so she was complacent for a long time. Now Kai Xiang took her line away. What else could she say now? Tang Bohu wanted to cry first, then glanced at Lily, with a look of shock in his eyes. This eldest sister, have we met somewhere? The veins on Lily's forehead jumped again, and she couldn't hold it back for a while. Who is your eldest sister? Who has met you before? Young miss, even if you turned into ashes, I would recognize your appearance. Ah, you are. Tang Bohu showed doubts at first, and then, as if he suddenly realized something, he showed excitement on his face. You were the one who was in the temple last time. Hearing this, Lily was extremely sure that Tang Bohu must have truly recognized her. She was deeply afraid that later Tang Bohu would say that he was mistaken for a pervert by the monk and kicked away. When Kai Xiang just thought that she was dumped by Wu Zhuangyuan, after that, if such rumors are added, then she will never want to get over this task again. Shut up, Lily glared at Tang Bohu with a warning look, glanced at Kai Xiang, twisted her skirt and strode towards Tang Bohu. If you dare to say it, just think about being kicked when you chatted up Kai Xiang in the temple. You don't want her to recognize you when you come out, do you? Tang Bohu looked like he wanted to laugh at first, but when Lily reminded him, he really remembered that he had also been kicked out by a monk. At this moment, he winked at Lily and said quietly, "Teach me." Pomegranate. Do you know this guy? Kai Xiang glanced at Tang Bohu. At first, seeing his fair appearance, I felt quite fond of him. Seeing him talking and laughing with Pomegranate now, the smile on his face couldn't help but fade a little. Although there was nothing wrong with Pomegranate, she was usually not familiar with Pomegranate. In addition, Pomegranate usually dressed up in a fancy way and sometimes spoke awkwardly. Crazy, so although the two knew each other, their friendship was not deep. At this moment she thought that Tang Bohu and Pomegranate were old acquaintances, and when she saw a corpse on the cart next to Tang Bohu, she understood a little bit, and said with a smile, "Is this little brother selling his body to bury his father? Why not? Let's talk first." This time Tang Bohu didn't face any trouble again, nor did he get the treatment of Kai Xiang, looking back with a smile. He glanced at Lily, with a bit of a smile in his eyes. Lily thought that the house had said that they wanted to recruit people a few days ago, and she, in order to reserve a spot for Tang Bohu, it happened to be vacant at the moment. As he took out the money and handed it to Tang Bohu, he turned around and returned to the house. After entering the mansion, Tang Bohu still became a low-level servant. Since Lily had decided that she might not be able to complete the task, she immediately wanted to contact Li Yangzi, but no matter how she called, there was no response from Li Yangzi. Lily had no choice but to come back a few times. She couldn't summon Li Yangzi for this mission, so she had to wait until the body died and left the mission world. She stopped contacting Tang Bohu. Instead, Tang Bohu came to the door and said, "Sister Shiliu, tell me, how can I get Sister Kaiuk Siang to agree to meet me downstairs at midnight tonight?" He was originally a god. The proud son of the Tang family in the plot originally had few assets in Jiangnan, and because he became famous at a young age, countless people came to ask for calligraphy and painting. Even when Zhu Zishan lost money in gambling, he would always go to him to paint to save his life. The Tang family is very wealthy, and he has hardly suffered any hardships. He has been in Washington for 2 months, but because he is a lowly servant, he cannot even enter the inner courtyard. After all these days, Kaiuk Siang has no face. Saw it? On the contrary, it is because Lily, like the original owner Pomegranate, often goes out to the inner courtyard to do errands for Mrs. Hua, so she often runs between the two courtyards and has more opportunities to meet. After taking a look at Tang Bohu, she thought that this task would not be easy to complete at first. Now that she saw that Tang Bohu only had Kaiuk Siang in his heart, Lily actually didn't like to get involved in other people's affairs, so she and Tang Bohu didn't even talk to each other even though they had met several times. Now seeing Tang Bohu coming up to him, Lily glanced at him. "What does it have to do with me?" He didn't want to squeeze in between these two people, but he never thought about helping Tang Bohu. If he could catch Kaiuk Siang with his own ability, that would be fine. If he couldn't catch her, it would have nothing to do with him. If he wanted to take a shortcut now, let yourself help, but there is no chance at all. Tang Bohu glanced at her and was about to say something, but Wu Zhuangyuan came over with his dog, frowned and shouted at Tang Bohu, "Boy, what are you doing? Don't be lazy. At the second watch tonight, I'll go to Sister Pomegranate's door and say goodbye first." After he finished speaking, he quickly turned around and ran away with a broom in his hand. Wu Zhuangyuan showed hesitation on his face, and after a long while he walked towards Lily. "Pomegranate, has something happened to you recently? Everyone said that because of such a boy, you have changed and become different from before. It's the same, you can't even dress up anymore, right?" There was a look of hurt in his eyes, and his tall and strong figure even twisted a little aggrievedly when he said this, and stared at Lily resentfully. "I used to be very affectionate. I used to call her Xiaojiao, but now I have moved on and am no longer in love, so I just ignore her." Lily took several deep breaths before suppressing the urge in her heart to beat Wu Zhuangyuan. She clenched and loosened her fists, loosened and clenched them again. After repairing the 9-yang manual, she used the martial arts. After practicing several times in a row, her martial arts skills were already mastered. Although she was not as good as masters like Mrs. Hua and Tang Bohu, it was enough to beat Wu Zhuangyuan if he didn't fight back. The corner of her mouth twitched. He smoked again and looked around to see that no one was around. No one had heard Wu Zhuangyuan's words just now, and he breathed a sigh of relief. "I beg you to shut up, okay? If someone hears what I just said, I will laugh to death. You can find someone else from now on, I can't be the same again." Hearing this, Wu Zhuangyuan's face showed shock and disbelief. Seeing Lily quickly turned around and ran away, he shouted angrily, You have changed your mind. I hate you." After that, he covered his face and ran away with tears streaming down his face. His voice was loud, and the entire corridor seemed to hear his voice shouting that he hated himself. Many people around him looked over and looked at her. Lily's brows jumped at the sight, and she hurriedly hid in the inner courtyard. In the afternoon, I brought tea into the room for Mrs. Hua. I heard Mrs. Hua ask, "Why, did you have a quarrel with Mr. Wu Zhuangyuan?" Lily staggered, and she didn't know how the incident in the outer courtyard was spread to the inner courtyard. But Mrs. Hua's smile didn't look like she was angry, so Lily didn't make a sound and just put the tea on the table. Chunxiang and others who were not very familiar with Lily on weekdays came over to ask her if she had quarreled with Wu Zhuangyuan. Lily didn't want to explain at first, thinking that the rumors stopped with the wise man, but later she found that there was no wise man in the inner courtyard, and everyone who saw her was confused. When asked if she had quarreled with Wu Zhuangyuan and if it was related to 9527, Lily couldn't help it. She explained it to Dongxiang first. Dongxiang didn't believe it. When she finished her work and returned to her room in the evening, she passed by in the corridor. I heard two maids talking animatedly about the story between themselves and Wu Zhuangyuan. After finally returning to the room, as soon as he opened the door, Tang Bohu rushed out from behind. Sister Pomegranate, he shook the little servant hat on his head coquettishly, while stroking his hair. He was about to when he opened his mouth to speak. Lily warned him, "If you ask about Wu Zhuangyuan, do you believe I will beat you up?" Lily has changed in a few months. Under the moonlight, she has almost stopped applying rice powder recently and keeps doing facial masks every night. The effect is now visible. Her skin is much fairer and rougher than before. It's a bit tender, and it's covered with thin light velvet, which makes the skin even more fragile, as if you've drunk enough water, with a full and transparent feeling. She no longer had the downcast look she had when I saw her in the temple a few months ago. Although her appearance was just ordinary, there was a bit of coldness between her eyebrows, and her lips were light pink and looked very soft. Now she pursed them impatiently. At this time, there was also a stubborn feeling. I don't know if it's because of the mutual affection, but Pomegranate's originally vulgar temperament, now, because of her new soul, she has become a bit more elegant. If it hadn't been for the sight he saw in the temple a few months ago, I'm afraid Tang Bohu wouldn't have been so surprised when he saw Lily's current appearance. But just because he had seen her most embarrassed side before, this time once Leng saw her clean and elegant appearance, he felt that it was unexpectedly pleasing to the eye. Due to several months of practicing, Lily's figure has become taller. Pomegranate's figure was originally a bit thin, and she likes to wear clothes that are so bright that she can't suppress the color, so she looks more and more skinny and thin. At this moment, once Lily changed into clothes that suited her, her simplicity revealed a bit of beauty. She has done so many missions, and she already knows what is suitable for her. Once she wears it now, and due to the influence of her own attributes, she looks like a pomegranate in just a few months. This body seems to look much more beautiful. For a moment, Tang Bohu seemed to be afraid to joke with Lily as unscrupulously as before. Seeing Lily glaring at him with a sullen face, he couldn't help but shrink his legs and said cautiously, "I just want to ask Sister Shiliu, is there any way to turn this painting? Just leave it to Sister Kaiuxiang." What they asked was not about Wu Zhuangyuan, but she was so angry at this moment. When Lily was a little embarrassed, Tang Bohu asked again, "I wonder what happened to Wu Zhuangyuan and Sister Shiliu. Son, can you tell me?" To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 159. Go to hell. Lily kicked Tang Bohu, snatched the folded paper from his hand, and waved impatiently, "I'll leave it to Sister Kaiuxiang tomorrow. I ask you to leave quickly. Don't worry. Come to me again to avoid killing me in the future." Today, Wu Zhuangyuan misunderstood that he had abandoned him because of Tang Bohu. Although it sounded a little angry to Lily at first, but after thinking about it later, she felt that it was not unreasonable. It was probably because Tang Bohu had been with him before he entered the mansion. We met once, and because both of them had been kicked away by the monks in the temple, it was inevitable that they would sometimes exchange a few words when they met. It would be okay if others misunderstood them now. If Kaiuxiang also misunderstood, once Bohu's true identity is exposed, won't it make Kaiuxiang feel jealous of herself? Although Lily is not afraid, she can't explain this kind of thing even if she jumps into the Yellow River. Since she no longer wanted to complete the task, there was no need to get close to Tang Bohu anymore. Lily waved her hand impatiently, and suddenly several figures flew in from the top of the inner courtyard wall at a speed visible to the naked eye. Lily turned her head to look, and Tang Bohu also. He turned his head involuntarily. "Boss, come and see. As soon as you come, you see this couple. They are really like-minded. They are having a tryst here in the middle of the night," a somewhat obscene male voice rang out, and Lily turned her head away. Why did the four prostitutes who shocked Jiangnan appear now? Didn't it mean that they would wait until the middle of the plot to appear just to win over Tang Bohu and Kai Xiang? The original owner misunderstood that Tang Bohu was interested in her, and she was obsessed with her for a day, but was knocked unconscious by these four people. Of course, honor the original owner. He didn't look good looking. With a heavy makeup on her face, a big mouth, blue eyes and a thin face, she looked very hideous and terrifying. Of course, no one came to pick her flowers. Lily took a deep breath, and was about to hide behind Tang Bohu with a fearful expression, when the man known as the boss patted her on the shoulder. "Not bad, eldest sister, I see you are so uninhibited. Why do you do it with us? It's just like stealing money in the middle of the night. Why don't you join us? Why does she have to be misunderstood like this every time? Could it be that just because Pomegranate has a wretched face, and now that she has behaved normally after entering this world, and no longer wears heavy makeup and is considered a ghost, does she have to be the one who teases good men and women?" Thinking that she was treated as a pervert when she talked to Tang Bohu in the temple, Lily felt an unknown rage in her heart. Without thinking, she turned around and punched the so-called boss. "You should die too. What the hell? I don't look like I'm dating him." She scolded and kicked him, and soon the boss was foaming at the mouth and beaten until his nose was bruised and his face was swollen, and he fell to the side without making a sound. Tang Bohu glanced at Lily silently, then quietly loosened his hand that had been clenched into a fist, and instinctively took 2 steps back. Although Lily's tone when talking to him just now was impatient. But at least he hasn't taken such a serious action. Now look at the leader of the 4 prostitutes in Jiangnan. One of his front teeth was knocked out, and the woman who went crazy was really scary. He even avoided the opportunity to save Lily once he wanted to. "Help!" After Lily finished beating the person, she opened her mouth and shouted. The boss, who was lying on the ground dying, stretched out his hand tremblingly and shouted in a low voice, "Help!" Wu Zhuangyuan quickly brought people over and pulled the 4 people out. With a large number of people in Washington, the 4 prostitutes were arrested and sent to the government. This time, because of Lily's unintentional interruption, the 4 evil heroes were unable to touch Kai Xiang's room, and Tang Bohu took the initiative to inform Kai Xiang, but was misunderstood by Kai Xiang, and finally took the blame for her, which moved Kai Xiang. Lily, on the other hand, was so angry that she vented all her resentment for being kicked away by the blind monk as a pervert on the 4 evil heroes. The boss was beaten so hard that his skull nearly burst open. When he saw the appearance of the official, it was as if she had seen her own mother, hiding behind the official, and being taken away impatiently. As a result, Lily gained some fame in Washington. However, when she came back from buying medicinal materials for Mrs. Hua in the afternoon, Lily when I heard several girls gathered together and said that they had beaten the 4 prostitutes in the south of the Yangtze River, they were feeling proud when Dong Xiang waved to Lily from the pavilion next to the rockery. "Come here, Pomegranate." Lily didn't want to pay attention at first, but when she saw Kai Xiang standing by the pavilion and looking here, she hesitated for a while and then passed. In addition to the 4 fragrances of spring, summer, autumn, and winter, Tang Bohu is also present in the pavilion. He failed to make a splash yesterday, and now he is still 9527. He has not even been named Huan, who was given the name later, but now he can enter the pavilion. Lily glanced at him in surprise, and asked subconsciously, 9527 is here too, doesn't it mean that low-level servants outside can't enter the hospital? Oh Pomegranate, we didn't treat him as a human being, we only treated him as a dog. Chunxiang didn't even look at Tang Bohu, and shook off the handkerchief in her hand. I heard that you beat up those loot thieves last night. It's because of the attempted rape, Pomegranate, is this true? Forced rape failed. Forced rape or not? Forced to rape. Lily stiffened instantly. She couldn't believe her ears. How bad was the original owner's reputation and image in Washington? She had worked hard for several months and even beat up the thieves and sent them to the government. Such a good thing has been twisted into this. Who said that? Lily didn't need to look, she could see Tang Bohu's distorted face suppressing a smile, and couldn't help but become even more angry. I am the incarnation of justice, the messenger of chivalry. What about forcing rape to fail? Those few are a pervert is a thief. If she found out who was telling the story, she would definitely pull out the tongue of the person who was stirring things up behind his back. It's spread all over the house, Dong Xiang said nonchalantly, and then added, anyway, Madam knows your character, so don't worry, Madam won't blame you. Lily bit her lip and wanted to reach out and scratch the stone pillars in the pavilion. Let's beat the drum and pass the flowers. If it's someone's turn, they have to compose an acrostic poem. These eldest ladies are called Yetu, but in fact they have very high status in Washington. They spend their days pampering themselves, either playing kites or raising pets. Now Mrs. Hua no longer needs anyone to take care of her, and she actually started to play drums and pass flowers around. Lily didn't want to play with them, and was just about to find a chance to escape, but was pulled by Kai Xiang. It would be hard to play if there are less people. Dong Xiang calls for a few more people, and the pomegranates stay too. As soon as she finished speaking, Dong Xiang shouted as she stood on the pavilion, and soon a group of people gathered around her. Even Mrs. Hua was alarmed and led two girls over. Everyone was here now. Seeing that Mrs. Hua was eager to participate, Lily couldn't refuse. Two young men specially brought the drums. When the drumming sound of dong dong sounded, Hua it actually fell into the hands of Tang Bohu. Creating words and sentences was not a problem for him at all, let alone acrostic poems. The deed of sale he signed when he entered Washington was a huge acrostic poem. Now he could easily complete the acrostic poem. The acrostic poem request put forward by the madam was completed very smoothly, which made Kai Xiang look at him in surprise. When the drum beat stopped again, it fell on an unknown little girl. She was a little nervous and couldn't answer in the end, so she danced and sang as punishment. The group of people staggered around laughing. After playing for a while, the flower fell on Kai Xiang. On the body, Mrs. Hua looked at her favorite girl, smiled and said, Kai Xiang, just say a few words after her own name. Kai Xiang's eyes showed a smile, she thought for a while, pursed her lips and said, after autumn, the plum blossoms welcome the winter, and the fragrance is tempting to celebrate the flowers blooming. As soon as she said the sentence, everyone clapped their hands and applauded, although the sentence is not that profound, but the artistic conception is sufficient. Winter plum blossoms are blooming and the fragrance is alluring. The plum blossoms are alluring, blooming in winter, and Tang Bohu can't help but show admiration in his eyes. She is not like Tang Bohu, who studied hard for many years and passed the exam. She is just a girl who lives in the inner house. She is writing poems at the moment, and not everyone is Caog, who can write a poem in 7 steps. So Kai Xiang's words were already very remarkable. Tang Bohu's eyes showed a bit of satisfaction when he thought that he entered Washington for such a person who was well read in poetry and not vulgar. As soon as Lily saw the drumming and passing flowers, luckily it wasn't her turn yet. She knew exactly how many pounds she had in her belly. After the Ming dynasty, it was not like the poets in the Tang dynasty. She just wanted to find someone to steal the poems. Now she definitely couldn't think of 2 songs, so she was a little flustered and wanted to find a chance to say goodbye so as not to make a fool of herself. When the drums stopped playing, the flowers suddenly fell on her. The person sitting next to her was the round-faced girl who wanted to copy the prescription to her. Lily turned to her and asked her with a grin, which made the little girl shrink her shoulders in fright. Pomegranate, if that's the case, you should just write a poem after Sanyeo's name. Mrs. Hwa pointed at the little girl with a round face and said with a smile, her original surname is Hu and her name is Sanyeo, so you can be her first accomplice. Poetry. Although everyone in Washington knew exactly how much the original owner weighed, I wonder if it was because Kyuk Siang had just been there to compare. At this moment, several people were staring at Lily with excited faces, even Tang Bohu. She also nodded. Lily's mind went blank. She opened her mouth and was speechless. She couldn't write any poems. She might even know how to punch or kick. If you can't write a poem, Pomegranate, you have to sing and dance. After Mrs. Hwa said this, Lily's whole body suddenly stood up with chills. She saw that the person who had just been singing and dancing was blushing with laughter. At this moment, she had no face to see anyone, so how could she dare to go forward and show her embarrassment? She was really showing her embarrassment instead of being polite, so when she heard Mrs. Hwa's urging, she subconsciously he said in his mouth. Pepper noodles. She paused after saying this. 3 pounds, how much money? To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 160. The words that suddenly blurted out made Lily want to die. How could she say the 3 words pepper noodles, and how could she ask how much 3 kilograms cost? Lily didn't know what she was talking about. She just remembered that she often bought medicinal materials for Mrs. Hwa. It was just when she was familiar with asking for prices. As soon as she said these words, there was a deathly silence in the pavilion, and no one dared to raise their breath. When he came out, Tang Bohu's face turned red, his chest couldn't help rising and falling, and his shoulders couldn't help shaking while turning his back, as if he was trying to hold back his laughter. When everyone was trying to endure it, there was a poof sound, but Mrs. Hwa couldn't hold it back and laughed out loud first. Hu Sanyeo's face turned red and tears rolled in her eyes. Mrs. Hwa smiled, and everyone couldn't hold it back any longer. Live, ah ha 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 ha. Wow, Hu Sanyeo burst into tears and stamped his feet. Sister Pomegranate is the worst, I will ignore you from now on, you are the pepper noodles. After she finished speaking, she turned around and ran away quickly. Even this Mrs. Hwa couldn't stop her from staying for a while. She must have gone crazy and didn't have time to resign to Mrs. Hwa. Ha ha ha. Tang Bohu finally couldn't bear it any longer. He held his stomach and burst into tears with laughter. 3 kilograms of pepper noodles, how much money? The more he spoke, the more people laughed happily. Lily's face turned red at first, and then turned livid. She pointed at Tang Bohu and said, 9,527, who let you enter this pavilion? Besides, we're going to lock you up by playing acrostics. What's up? Lily was about to leave before, but after Tuka asked her if she was forced to rape her and almost killed her, she then suggested playing drums to pass the flower line. Lily was about to leave, but she couldn't. Now something happened. Big Ugly. I saw everyone in the pavilion laughing so hard that they held their stomachs and cried out in pain. She also wanted to imitate the 3 good things and run away just now. This servant is also quite knowledgeable. We happen to be short of a boy who can study with him in the study, so I will give him a name called Hwayan and let him accompany the 2 young masters in studying. Mrs. Hwa suppressed a smile, thinking about Tang Bohu's words just now, and she couldn't help but feel a little worried in her heart. With some love for talent, he directly put the plot that was originally disrupted by Lily back on track. Finally getting rid of his status as a low-level servant, Tang Bohu thanked Mrs. Hwa loudly, then suppressed his smile and winked at Lily. The 3 of them, Chun Xia Dong Xiang, were all blushing and staring at Tang Bohu with heartbeats. The acrostic poem Tang Bohu composed just now had beautiful words, it was catchy to read, and there was no harshness at all. The girls also noticed how good he looked. He has a handsome face, and he used to have a playful and ungrateful look when he was a low-level servant. Now, after learning about his outstanding literary talent, he has become a romantic and unruly person. Huan's poetry is so good. Sang Xiang gathered around and played for a while. Lily didn't want to play anymore and everyone had less fun. Mrs. Hua stood up. He just let everyone play while he led the girl away. Xiang glanced at Tang Bohu. After hesitating for a moment, he still followed Mrs. Hua. Ever since he became a study boy, the chief teacher of Washington State soon died accidentally at the hands of Master Hua during a competition with Tang Bohu. Tang Bohu suddenly became a famous figure in Washington, and there were people there every day. A large group of girls surrounded him, and occasionally Xiang would chat with him, but he didn't know if it was because of Lily's peppery words that he got entangled with her. In the past, when he was trying to make fun of Xiang by drawing pictures, he would sometimes ask Lily for acrostic poems, intentionally or unintentionally, which annoyed Lily to death. However, he just got more and more excited the more he played, and every time he watched. Every time I visit Lily, I always ask, how much does it cost for £3? The task this time was difficult. I wonder if it was because Tang Bohu did not pester Xiang. Xiang did not hate him or reject him. Among the timid and cowardly servants in Washington, the young and elegant Tang Bohu was as a servant. She also has an attractive charm. Xiang is not young, and Mrs. Hua also intends to choose a son-in-law for her. No matter how popular Xiang is in Washington, after all, their status, they are still a group of servants. If they are lucky, they will be taken over by the two young masters and become a maid. If they are unlucky, one of the stewards or servants may be worthy of leaving. In comparison, Tang Bohu's image is much better than that of the rough-looking Wu Zhuangyuan. Although Xiang is a servant, she is actually very arrogant. She has been literate and able to read since she was a child. Except for her background, she is not inferior to others. She is a good needlewoman in everything. She has always admired Tang Bohu, one of the four most talented people in Jiangnan, but she also knew that her identity was very different from that of Tang Bohu. Rather than being randomly assigned by Mrs. Hua, it would be better for her to choose someone with a slightly more promising future. After the two couples got married and bid farewell to Washington, Mrs. Hua's love for her will definitely agree to her request and get rid of her slave status from now on. Maybe Huan can get another academic title, and her life will be much better than being a girl in Washington forever. Because of this, Qiu Xiang would occasionally take the initiative to talk to Tang Bohu. However, after a long time, seeing Tang Bohu no longer hurt her. She was a high-spirited person. She had seen Tang Bohu talking to Lily. For her, there must be something unacceptable in my heart, so I became a little colder towards Tang Bohu. The days passed quickly like this. Half a year passed by in a flash, and Prince Ning in the plot finally came to the door with the deadly scholar. Sister Pomegranate, go and have a look. When the little girl came to find Lily, the fight was going on in the front hall. When Lily arrived in the hall, Mrs. Hua had been injured, while Tang Bohu had a cold face and held his hand in his hand. Holding half of a picture of spring trees and autumn frost, he was currently glaring at the fatal scholar with blood at the corner of his mouth. According to the development of the plot, the fatal scholar has a grudge against him. When his father Tang Tianhao was competing with the fatal scholar for the rankings, he was unhappy because the fatal scholar broke the spearhead of Tang Tianhao's weapon. The enemy was really jealous when they met. The two stood separately. The table and chair in the middle had already been broken to pieces. Xiang was lying on the ground unconscious. Tang Bohu was wearing a servant uniform. At this moment, his expression was serious, but his eyes looked very sharp. The painting is ruined. It's a pity that this painting by the prince is not a real work by Tang Yin. When he said this, he glanced at Lily and tapped his chin lightly, probably to signal her to stand further away. Lily's martial arts skills at this moment are just beginning. Naturally, he would not risk his death by running between two masters. She dragged Kai Xiang and the others up. Although Kai Xiang had a bruised nose and swollen face, fortunately, she could still vaguely see her original facial features, and she was not injured beyond recognition. She might be able to recover in 10 days and a half at most. She asked people to carry Xiang down. After a quarrel between Tai Shi Hua and Prince Ning, Tang Bohu threw away the remaining paintings in his hands, pulled Lily into the room and said, "The real work of Tang Yin is now we are in the Washington mansion. Prince Ning, please wait a moment, Sister Shiliu and I will go get it together." It should be the reason why Kai Xiang passed out, so Tang Bohu did not drag Kai Xiang to help him draw like in the original plot. Knowing his true identity, Lily entered the room without his instructions, and took some ink sticks and poured some. The tea began to be brewed. This move of hers did not require further instructions from Tang Bohu, but instead made him stunned for a moment, with an indescribable look in his eyes, but then he lowered his head and laid out the drawing paper. The Lily has almost finished grinding the ink. Lily knew Tang Bohu's ability only when he saw him finish the drawing in a very short time. Still unable to help being surprised, Tang Bohu threw the brush away and took out the seal to stamp it. Seeing Lily's silent expression, he felt a little uncomfortable. "Why don't you ask me how I know how to draw Tang Bohu's paintings?" There was a somewhat expectant and weird look in his eyes. Lily glanced at him, sneered twice and stepped forward to look at the paintings. "You're stupid." Tang Bohu, one of the 4 great talents in the south of the Yangtze River, is it you yourself who still can't draw? Tang Bohu came to Washington for Chiu Xiang. Both of them felt like a mirror in their hearts. When they were in the temple, Lily was even planning to take Chiu Xiang's corner. Each other also saw the most embarrassing side of each other, not to mention that her mission target was Tang Bohu. Knowing who Tang Bohu was, naturally she would not say stupid things knowingly. Her answer surprised Tang Bohu, and he laughed after a while. "That's it?" Tang Bohu didn't speak anymore. He rolled up the picture and hesitated for a moment before saying, "Maybe something happened here. I will leave after I defeat the deadly scholar and my Tang family regains its weapons ranking." He seemed to want to say something more, but in the end he endured it. Instead, Lily heard this and asked him curiously, "Did Kai Xiang agree to leave with you?" Falling flowers are intentional, but flowing water is ruthless. For the first time, his face did not have the playful smile in the past. Instead, he smiled, with a somewhat gloomy look in his eyes. He glanced at Lily again before holding water again and went out. Prince Ning naturally returned home in defeat, but Lily occasionally thought about the look on Tang Bohu's face when he said Luo Hua was interested, but she couldn't help but sigh. She only thought that Kai Xiang rejected Tang Bohu's request, so he wanted to leave. She didn't think so much in her heart, but Tang Bohu's final identity was revealed. The deadly scholar came back a few days later, exactly as in the plot. Tang Bohu left him in Washington forever. When Mrs. Hua promised to give Kai Xiang to him, he did not refuse. When the wedding was arranged, Mrs. Hua also asked Lily to pretend to be a bride. She had already expected this ending, and Lily was already prepared. Now that the plot is about to end, she would have to contribute to 2 characters who are destined to be together. Lily had long expected that. In the original plot she was not surprised that Pomegranate had done this before, but she just felt a little sigh towards the original owner. When Tang Bohu carried her and flew up to the hanging lighthouse, the hijab on her head spilled all over the floor. When Lily's face without makeup appeared in front of Tang Bohu, a smile appeared in his eyes. A group of fake newlyweds on the ground fell to the ground. Others laugh at me for being crazy, but I laugh at others because they can't see through it. When the lamp kept shaking, Lily was not afraid of being in mid-air. It was just that she was swaying so much that she couldn't stand still. Tang Bohu held her in his arms and held his arm to keep his body steady. Have you read enough? Your lover is waiting underground. The shaking above makes me dizzy. The corner of Lily's mouth twitched and she said something shocking. Down below, Mrs. Hua and others were applauding, and Asuana sounded. Kaiuxiang was carried out by Izipo, but Tang Bohu had no intention of putting Lily down. He held her waist with one hand and grabbed the huge lampstand above his head with the other. Smiled, and said, Pomegranate, you also know that I originally came here for Kaiuxiang, but now I have changed my mind. His voice no longer had the romantic and freehand flavor as before, but his brows were full of seriousness. The beauty of Kaiuxiang lies in her appearance, her soul, her character, and her strength. If you can be with her, you will have many confidants. You can add beauty to your sleeves. I originally thought that this kind of life was what I hoped for, but now I find that I was wrong. When it comes to chatting and quoting scriptures every day, Kaiuxiang is in tune with my soul. But fortunately, I pursued Kaiuxiang to enter the house, and I discovered that the things I asked for in the past were always what I thought I wanted. Tang Bohu said this, hugging Lily tighter. If it were you who I proposed to Mrs. Hua to marry, Pomegranate, would you agree to my promise? Although Lily was usually clumsy and funny, and sometimes made a scandal in Washington, Tang Bohu found that he was the most relaxed and happy when he was with her. When he was with her, he didn't have to be on guard, put on airs, or constantly with the demeanor of a literati and Confucian scholar. Although that kind of time seems beautiful, it is actually just like what he said. With great fame comes pressure. But it was different when she was with Lily. She didn't need to tell her any poems or songs. As long as she stops there, Tang Bohu will be very happy. Tang Bohu knew that Lily seemed to have a crazy personality, but in fact, she was not what everyone imagined. She was even harder to get close to than Kaiuxiang. She always felt like she was separated by a layer of membrane, making people unable to touch her. What? Lily was shocked by the dramatic turn of the plot. She originally thought that Tang Bohu was going to take Kaiuxiang away, but now they have already recited Kaiuxiang. Tang Bohu still regrets it now, no matter how gentle Kaiuxiang is. I am afraid that if I learn the truth, I will not be able to help but kill him with a knife. The person I want to marry is not Kaiuxiang. Pomegranate, will you marry me and leave Washington with me? Tang Bohu asked again. This is what Lily's mission is for. Although I don't know why Tang Bohu fell in love with her at this moment. She was a fool not to agree to such a good thing, but she glanced at Kaiuxiang who was on the ground waiting for Tang Bohu to go down to visit him to get married. Before she could say anything, Tang Bohu turned her face back. You don't have to worry about anything else. I just want to ask you, do you agree? If you don't want to, I will leave Washington, and I will naturally repay Kaiuxiang. If you agree, leave the rest to me, and naturally no one will blame you. On your body. Unexpectedly, things would take such a turn. Lily glanced at Kaiuxiang below and hesitated for a moment. This was her mission. It would be best if she could complete it. At this moment, it was clear that she had the chance to complete the mission. In front of her eyes, there was some struggle in her eyes at first, and then she slowly calmed down and nodded. Tang Bohu's eyes showed a smile. He hugged her and jumped down slowly. When Wu Zhuangyuan was about to come forward to say something, Tang Bohu hugged Lily and started to run outside. I'm sorry, Mrs. Hua, Sister Kaiuxiang, today since I have chosen Pomegranate, Madam has good intentions, and for the sake of the Pomegranate Festival, I naturally cannot bear to keep her here. Madam, tell Kaiuxiang for me, I wish her a happy marriage with Hua Wen and Hua Wu. There was silence behind them. After a while, angry shouts suddenly came from the room. Many people rushed out with long swords and clubs. Smelly shoes and socks flew all over the sky. Rotten eggs were smashed all the way behind the two of them. Lily was beaten by Tang Bohu. She hugged her and ran, bumping all the way and almost vomiting her stomach. She asked feebly, "This is what you call a good method?" "Mrs. Hwa, that old bitch wants to plot against me. Humph, she wants to deliberately use this method to get me to point out Kyoxiang, but I don't get what she wants. This is something she caused on her own, and it has nothing to do with me." Tang Bohu replied very irresponsibly, and the internal energy under his legs started to run quickly, "I'm just following the trend. Mrs. Hwa hated Tang Tianhao, so she hated Tang Bohu as well, so she also hated Tang Bohu. He was given a strong poison. If he hadn't avenged his father for killing the scholar, Tang Bohu would not have wanted to get involved in Washington's business. It was natural for Mrs. Hwa to arrange a wedding for him, and now she still wants to. If you are playing tricks on him, don't blame him for taking advantage of his scheme. She originally wanted some Kyoxiang, but she didn't expect that Mrs. Hwa made a joke with Tang Bohu and wanted to scare him to death. In the end, unexpectedly, he ran away with pomegranates in his arms. At this moment, Lily could almost imagine what Mrs. Hwa and Kyoxiang's expressions looked like. With the corners of their mouths twitching, Tang Bohu hugged her and finally got rid of the Hwa family. When she returned to the Tang family, Mrs. Tang didn't show much surprise when her son had disappeared for nearly a year. She was just a little surprised that his son suddenly brought back a woman. There were many beauties in the Tang family. When she first saw Tang Bohu when they brought someone back, these beauties didn't take it seriously. However, when Lily really established a foothold in the Tang family and married Tang Bohu, a group of women regretted it was too late. Fortunately, they were able to enjoy themselves by playing around every day. They competed for favor for a while at first, but when they couldn't compete, they regarded the Tang family as a ready-made Pai Gao restaurant, and the conflict with Lily was not that big. Lily originally thought that Li Yangzi would not be able to call her on this mission. Unexpectedly, during the night of flowers and candles in the wedding room, her soul floated up and she realized that Li Yangzi was not absent. She probably just wanted to give up the mission before, but he did not want to agree. Tang Bohu got along well with Lily in temperament, and he had seen her in her most embarrassing moments, so Lily didn't have to pretend to be sweet in front of him, and her life was actually much more comfortable than when she was at the Hua family. He finally sent her to, after giving Kyoxiang a few paintings to the Hua family, and writing poems and lyrics for Kyoxiang as a dowry, the feud with the Hua family was finally settled. Originally Kyoxiang didn't love him like in the plot because he had saved Kyoxiang. Although Kyoxiang had a crush on him in the end because she knew Tang Bohu's true identity, it was not true love and liking. At first, I felt a little shameful because of Tang Bohu's escape from his relatives, but later when I saw Tang Bohu's apology, I gave up. In addition, Mrs. Hua originally did it as a joke, but it caused Kyoxiang to lose face. In the end, she simply let one of her sons marry her as his wife, which was the best of both worlds. To be continued. P.S. 5,000 words, it's the second update, but I will have another update later. 4. 123 of 456, Dear Lang Guanxianps's last update. An extra update at 7 o'clock for Kinkan to become the leader of the alliance. By the way, are there any Taiwanese readers who like this type of novel? One more thing at the end, the author really has a soft heart. Readers who don't like it really don't have to force themselves to read it. It's really unfair for you to see a reader who is not reading the original version spend a few dollars to vote for a 1-star review. Logically speaking, I have experienced this kind of thing a lot and shouldn't be affected like this, but I originally wrote my own happy novel, why should I wrong everyone? To be honest, I update 3 or 4 times a day, and this period of time has lasted for at least 15 days. I just don't like complaining to everyone, as if it seems like I am tired of writing novels, so I have been working hard to endure it. I am like this: how much money can I make from an unpopular novel in a month? So it's everyone's business how you like to read it. If you don't like it, please click X. There is no need to leave traces. I have wronged each other. Thank you to those who have always supported me. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 161. This mission was completed inexplicably. I thought it was all over, but unexpectedly, another village had a bright future. In the space, Li Yangzi smiled and watched Lily's figure gradually appear in the starry sky, with a gentle look in his eyes. Congratulations, the mission is completed. You have reached a certain level now. Compared with the previous missions, I will give you a more difficult level. Deepened missions, these missions are much more dangerous, but at the same time, the rewards can also be much greater. Lily knew the truth about finding wealth in danger, and there was nothing in the world that could be obtained for nothing, so she was not surprised at all when she heard Li Yangzi's words, and nodded quickly. What do you want to add to the little bit I gave you this time? She thought that the mission this time would never be completed, but unexpectedly it was completed in the end. Lily felt like she had found an unexpected fortune, and she didn't even think about it. He said, I want to add force. Her information appeared again in the starry sky. Gender, female, variable. Name, Lily. Age, 21. Intelligence, 62, out of 100. Appearance, 61, out of 100 points. Physical strength, 59, out of 100. Force, 30, 100 full points. Spirit, 15, out of 100 points. Reputation, 21, out of 100 points. Skills, 9 Yang Manual, 9 Yin Manual, Heaven and Earth Gate Tao Te Ching, Southern Gu Technique. Specialties, Intermediate Cooking Skills, Advanced Acting Skills, 5 Elements, and Bagua Skills. Charisma, 32, out of 100. Collection, Corpse King's Love, Saint's Blessing, Angel's Heart. This time the mission was completed simply, so except for a little force value, no other attributes were added. Although Lily had already expected such a result. But he still couldn't help but show a bit of disappointment on his face. Li Yangzi glanced at her. Her eyelids twitched. In fact, if it weren't for the sake of completing your mission, I would even erase a little of your intelligence value for you. Lily has done stupid things in the past, but this time in the mission I don't know if it was due to the influence of the original owner, but he did a lot of stupid things. He thought for a while and sighed, why don't you wait until you increase the force value to the level you think is suitable, and then increase the spirit too, so as not to worry about each other. The attribute value is yours. You will be easily affected when you encounter some obsessed original owners. The suggestion was a good one, and Lily could tell that he really thought about her, but for some reason, she felt a desolate feeling in her heart when she heard this. Thank you very much for your mercy and your suggestion. Can I do the task now? His suggestion was not adopted, and Li Yangzi did not show an angry expression. He just quickly returned to his previous expressionless look and nodded. Lily only saw his bright yellow sleeves waving. His vision went dark and he no longer felt conscious. When she woke up, she instinctively felt that something was wrong. Not only was she wearing something heavy on her head, she also seemed to have a lot of things growing on her face. The most important thing is that the 2 familiar lumps on her chest are gone, but instead, for some reason, at this tense moment, she suddenly remembered a scene she had seen every time in her profile but had never encountered before. Gender, female, variable. No, she comforted herself and endured it again and again. Unable to restrain herself, she made a very obscene gesture. She reached out and touched her lower abdomen. Suddenly her face turned green and white, like as if she had been struck by lightning 1,000 times. Lily screamed, "Woo!" She became a man. And he turned into a strange-looking man. The bolt from the blue probably refers to Lily's mental state at this time. She knows, She knows that when the column of her attribute value says variability, there may be such a day sooner or later, but because she did the task before, I have always been a woman, so I didn't think that this day would come so quickly. Lily couldn't help but scream, and hurriedly put her hands out of her crotch, shouting with tears in her heart, "Uncle Lee, Brother Lee, Master Lee, Brother Yangzi, please come out quickly." She couldn't complete the task this time, and she couldn't help but reach out and touch her face. It was full of bumps, and the most important thing was that there were two fangs sticking out from her lips. After touching these things, Lily shed more tears. Although she had done more tasks, the excitement this time was too great. She would rather do her own low-level tasks. Even if the reward was smaller, she would accept it. She would rather be loved by a saint than a boy. People. Ah. What's wrong? Fortunately, this time Li Yangzi finally paid attention to her and appeared in front of her. When Li Yangzi appeared, Lily was so excited that she jumped forward and hugged him. At this moment, her eyes were hot, and she didn't know why. Her IQ was affected to a certain extent when she returned from the pomegranate mission. She said with blurred eyes, I became a man. I know. Li Yangzi nodded, looked her up and down, and turned his head away unbearably. At this moment, Lily looked so powerful and tall. The picture was so beautiful that he didn't dare to look at it. What have I become? Lily didn't dare to look in the mirror. She could see the two bright teeth on her lips with her lowered eyelids, and she could vaguely see blue skin. She couldn't help screaming, and now she pulled her sleeves and said angrily, "Have I become an opera singer?" She was wearing a robe that seemed to be similar to Li Yangzi's, and the sleeves looked like Ming. The yellow one was the most important and the most unbearable thing for her. Her thighs seemed to be thicker and her waist was thicker. She couldn't help but walk over to Li Yangzi and compare them. "I'm fatter than you." Although the two are still about the same height, she is really much stronger. Although Lily's appearance was not as important as other attributes, such a blow was too severe. No matter how strong she was, she couldn't help crying tears of grief. "Okay, there's no need to cry." Li Yangzi twitched the corner of her mouth, and endured it again and again, while reaching out to touch her head, but when she saw her blue hair, the color looked dirty. He took back his outstretched hand. Lily looked at his last-ditch action, and the depressed look in her eyes became even deeper. It was so exciting to become a man. She had never even touched the words of a real man, but now she never. I touched it on myself. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but want to cry again, but her face was extremely big now, with 9 zigzag nostrils, lips as big as fists, and high cheekbones. This kind of woman's expression had never been seen before. Her face was 100 times uglier than when she was a pomegranate. Although Li Yangzi had strong determination, seeing her appearance now, he still couldn't help but curl up the corners of his mouth. "Be obedient, don't cry anymore, it's just a mission." As soon as he finished speaking, Li Yangzi felt unconvincing, so he quickly changed the subject. "You can also choose not to do the mission, and it will just be considered a failure. But there will be benefits after this mission is completed. If you are willing to stay, I will give you a benefit, but only during this mission." The coldness in his words faded a little, and he became a little more gentle. There was more smile in his eyes, and the corners of his mouth turned up slightly. He was extremely handsome. It's just that Lily is not in the mood to appreciate the handsome man's beauty at this moment, because she is too frustrated. Even without looking in the mirror, she could tell what kind of appearance her face looked like from the only visible skin on her face. What's the benefit?" As soon as Lily finished speaking, she felt something was wrong. Some green hair floated into her mouth. She pulled hard, and a few beards were pulled off by her. Beard. Lily couldn't help but fell silent when she saw the beard held in those big hands. She is really not used to being a man. She doesn't want a beard or extraneous things. Li Yangzi saw her actions and noticed her strange silence. He couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth higher, and a smile appeared in his always cold eyes. Be good, I will give you an entry to stop time with the ability of space. In this mission, you can stop time for up to tens of thousands of years, and you can use this ability 10 times in total. In other words, if you use it 10 times in a row, you can stop time for 100,000 years. When Lily heard this, she couldn't care less about the frustration of becoming a man. She blinked and stared at Li Yangzi with her big eyes. She has really big eyes now, and they are very big. Matched with her face, she is really amazing. The corners of Li Yangzi's mouth twitched twice. Thinking of Lily's appearance before, the smile in his eyes became deeper now. He turned his head away and saw Lily lowering her head, looking depressed and uncomfortable. He couldn't help but he turned his head to the side and laughed silently. It's just that there are conditions. That is to say, you must enter the time-space once and it will be counted once. And the time once can last up to 10,000 years, and you can stay in it for 1 year. Opportunity, do you understand? Lily felt a little better when she heard this condition. Although this ability can only be used in this mission, it is better than nothing. Li Yangzi should be able to take care of her this time because of her concern. For the sake of transforming into a man. But I want to remind you that the space you enter is almost small enough to only accommodate a figure like yours. Therefore, there is nothing in the space you enter. It is possible that you will be lonely and hard, and you will not be able to survive for a year. It will come out. Li Yangzi's face gradually became serious. There is no such thing as a free lunch. This space has incredible abilities, but it also has flaws. Entering such a time is equivalent to being exiled. Many people cannot bear the pain and may not survive it for less than a month. To be continued.